across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Two minutes past 6. How I've missed you. I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast. And breaking this morning, the leader of Reform UK arrives in the United States for a face-to-face meeting with US President Donald Trump. So can Nigel Farage save the special relationship? A top diplomat reveals the Prime Minister was told weeks ago about America and Israel's planned attack on Iran, but the government dragged their heels in deploying military support to our allies. Meanwhile, Germany and France stole a march on Starmer and gave Donald Trump the green light. We've got the inside story. Meanwhile, an illegal immigrant is jailed for assaulting 3 young women. A simple question this morning: when is enough enough? How do you solve a problem like the BBC? Could the corporation face a second Donald Trump lawsuit as it's revealed they misrepresented yet another political speech? Soham killer Ian Huntley is hours away from death as his life support system is switched off. Does this bring back the argument for the death penalty? Meanwhile, a woke government body says flying the flag of the United Kingdom is, and I quote, a tool of hate. Do you agree? Is our flag hateful? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Safira is taking your calls this morning. She's on form, I got to tell you. She's bringing her A game. Davis is directing our TV output. You can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. But why don't you watch the show live and uncensored on YouTube? Just head to YouTube, search Talking Up, we pop. David is our lead engineer and the boss, Dean Spencer, is running the show. It's a big one, a big 4 hours. As the saying goes, let's talk. It's all about your opinions. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. And I'm going to prioritise your voice notes today. I'm taking personal responsibility to get your opinions on the radio and on the telly. Now, we have breaking news in the Middle East as warning sirens are sounding out across Dubai and beyond. Isabel Oakeshott is Talk's international editor. It's where she is now. Isabel, what's happening?
So, good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
It's actually it was a surprisingly quiet night, and I was feeling quite positive and encouraged by that. And then just as we were coming on air, Mark, the alert went off again due to current situation and potential missile threats. Seek immediate shelter. Now, we've got quite used to these. I am just slightly not obeying that order to be on air with you for a couple of minutes. My kids are out in the corridor waiting for us to do this piece, so we need to go downstairs pretty shortly. But as I say, you know, it has been a little bit quieter. We did have a tremendous roar this morning as a warplane came overhead. I don't know whose warplane that was. Luckily, we know it wasn't an Iranian one because there aren't any, having the US having got control of airspace. But we're still in the thick of it here, I say.
And why are the authorities in Dubai sounding the sirens? What can our interpretation of that be?
Well, what it is that the Iranians are still lobbing a load of missiles in this direction. I mean, it is completely outrageous. The UAE has had more incoming than any other country, and yet the UAE is basically does business with Iran, or at least it used to.
Fellow Muslim country.
What is this all about? Well, it is Iran. It's an ideological thing. The UAE has a very different set of values and approach to life than the mad mullahs in Iran.
It's a freer society and it's more
liberal,
Western.
Very liberal place, that's right. So it's ideological, but it's also calculated. It's an attempt to cause maximum chaos and kind of international panic because there are so many different nationalities based here. Well, you know what? It's not working because the UAE is batting off and intercepting these missiles, literally 1,000 and more drones, a number of cruise missiles, and a good deal of ballistic missiles as well. And they are being battered off. They are being successfully intercepted. And those of us who live here are keeping calm and carrying on. Dubai functions as normal, but we do get these alerts. We do honour them. We do as we are told. That is the advice. So I am going to have to go down into the basement now with the kids, but I just thought I'd quickly come on and give you that update.
Isabel, we wish you well. There's no way I'm going to delay your descent into the basement. Stay safe and let's keep this conversation going. Warning sirens in Dubai, given evidence of an air attack, further air attacks, further missile launches from Iran on the Emirates. A very serious situation. It's a big problem for Dubai because it threatens its reputation as a safe haven in the Middle East for aspirational Westerners. And I just wonder whether that reputation could be further imperiled if the attacks continue. We're going to bring you more on that story in Iran. It's emerging now that a senior diplomat warned the Prime Minister weeks ago that America and Israel were planning airstrikes on Iran, and the Prime Minister very slow to act, very slow to deploy military resources. Was that in order to placate his left-wing backbenchers? Was it in order to placate the British Palestinian community, who, don't forget, Freudian slip, the British Muslim community? Is that what has been going on? It's a real concern. Isabel Oakeshott live in Dubai, Talks International editor. Let's bring you today's front pages. The Times newspaper, surrender warns Trump. Now, folks, this is what leadership looks like. President Trump has called for Iran's unconditional surrender as he brushed off warnings about surging energy prices. Donald Trump said he was not concerned whether a democracy replaced the regime and was open to another religious leader, saying, I deal with a lot of religious leaders and they are fantastic. He told CNN that the most expensive petrol of his second term and rising global oil prices were short-term issues, as Qatar, a US ally, warned that the war would bring down the economies of the world if it continued much longer. And here's what's remarkable about Donald Trump's intervention. He's got no skin in the game. Donald Trump is the least cynical politician that I've witnessed in my lifetime. What I mean by that is that Donald Trump has nothing to gain from this war in Iran. His MAGA support base in the United States, the political right in America, don't want foreign wars. And it's going to affect inflation in America. It's going to affect oil and gas prices. But he's doing it because it's the right thing for the world. So Donald Trump is being cast as the bad orange man, Adolf Hitler 2.0. By the way, do you remember that when the Democrats in America said he was going to be Hitler? When does that happen? When does he become Hitler? Because it's been, what, a year and a bit now? Nearly a year and a half? No Hitler moment yet from Donald Trump. All he's done is improve the terms by which America trades with the world. He's brought jobs back to the United States. He's made companies like Apple produce their products in America. The car industry, the oil supply is unbelievable. Gas prices are at their lowest level since 2010. We can only dream of such cheap petrol here in the United Kingdom. He's got rid of wokery in America's public institutions. Men can't participate in women's sport anymore. And there is the small matter of the fact that he's closed the southern border, keeping terrorists and sex offenders out of America. He's doing an incredible job. And now he's on the world stage, in my view, having a Churchillian moment. Let me know what you think. Is Donald Trump comparable to Winston Churchill? The reason why I consider his actions in the Middle East to be so heroic is that there is no political advantage to him. In fact, this war in Iran is bad news for his electoral prospects, but he's doing it because he believes it's the right thing to do. We can only dream of such leadership. Old Keir Starmer stands accused of dragging his heels in support for Israel and America. Reportedly, he's known for weeks about this planned attack and did nothing. We've got HMS Dragon still stuck in the sea somewhere on its way to its chosen destination. What a joke. What a basket case this country has become. Weekend, UK voters say no to joining war with Iran. Only 1 in 5 supports Britain joining airstrikes against the regime. Well, sometimes I disagree with the voters, and they've got this wrong, because Iran is the biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world. So the reason why we have ISIS and Hezbollah and Hamas and all the rest of it is the support of the Iranian regime, who, by the way, although their economy's in the toilet, they control the second largest gas reserve on planet Earth. So the idea that this wicked authoritarian regime has so much energy at its disposal, the idea that this regime could have nuclear weapons is a total nightmare for the world. It can't happen, and Donald Trump is right to stand up to it. If only 1 in 5 voters support this war with Iran, well then, well done them, and the other 4 simply don't have a clue about the implications. Daily Mirror, Epstein files, more released. Trump assault claims probed by FBI. The FBI questioned a woman who allegedly Donald Trump sexually assaulted as a girl. Democrats were last night calling for the US president to testify on his Epstein links. Listen, if there's a case to answer, then by all means, I'm all for accountability. Interesting, though, how the Mirror decided to focus on that and not Keir Starmer's absolute lunacy in relation to his, in relation to the special relationship, in relation to the fact that he has basically thrown America under the bus. The Guardian newspaper, Trump demands Iran's unconditional surrender. Donald Trump said yesterday that only Iran's unconditional surrender would end the offensive launched a week ago, as the US and Israel carried out some of the heaviest bombardments so far in the conflict. And that's why he's the new Churchill. That is what leadership looks like, folks. Unconditional surrender. He's absolutely right. Why should America deploy their military resources so enthusiastically and so expensively? And why should Israel do the same if there isn't some kind of end result? And the end result has to be the fall of that regime. A leopard doesn't change its spots, does it, Dean Spencer? Iran are evil. The biggest sponsor of terrorism around the world. So next time there's a bomb in London or Paris or Amsterdam or wherever it is, a Western target, enough already with the flowers and the book of bleeding condolence. I'm sick of the book of condolence when there's been a terror attack and all the hand wringing and the black suits and the black tie and the sad faces and Keir Starmer with his thoughts and prayers. No! Forget about your bunches of flowers at yet another scene of Islamic terror. You want action. And that's what you've got from Trump. He said, look, Iran are the bad guys. He's like John Wayne as well as Winston Churchill, isn't he? Iran are the bad guys. They sponsor the terror. They are evil, and they're trying to have nuclear weapons. That's why this war is happening. It's not like the Iraq War, whereby the so-called weapons of mass destruction were non-existent, all cooked up by Alistair Campbell and Tony Blair and the sexed up dossier. You don't need a dossier to know that Iran had to be emasculated. And that's exactly what Trump is doing with no help from the United Kingdom. What a moment of national shame. Daily Express, Camilla's plea for children to get away from phones. The Sun newspaper, Cheltenham, your countdown to the big week starts here. Do you like a flutter? Any tips? Let me know. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. And Oasis split, not the band, just Noel Gallagher and his girlfriend Sally. Daily Star, last but not least, UK entry is gut, ja. Eurovision easy as 1, 2, 3. What does this even mean? 16 minutes past 6. Well, I'm delighted to say that our music expert, Dave the engineer, said it's the title of the song. We're going to gewinnen Eurovision with a UK entry called 1, 2, 3. Well, at least Germans know how to win stuff. What's the world coming to you? You're telling me that our entry for Europe is a German song? If that's not surrender, I don't know what is. Talk Breakfast, more to come.
No doubt that the British government has acted in an incredibly weak, equivocal way. It's easy to start a war, very difficult to ensure that the aftermath doesn't descend into complete chaos.
Well, Trump doesn't mince his words. I mean, we should have realised where our national interest stood, and he should have expressed immediate support.
Do you know that we've got the cost of living coming down, that you've got interest rates coming down?
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm really happy to say both sides, but that to me... I don't know where you get your source from, but go Google, go ChatGPT. If you've got a producer in the room, get them to do it right now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 6:20 and we've got a lot to get through in the next 3.5 hours. Front pages of today's newspapers. The Guardian, Trump demands Iran's unconditional surrender. And how about this in the Times? Surrender warns Trump. President calls on Iran to give in unconditionally. Well, Nigel Farage has flown to the United States for face-to-face talks with Donald Trump. Two questions. Can he save the special relationship? And is Nigel Farage a prime minister in waiting? Live in the studio, broadcaster and comedian Paul Cox. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Mark. What a time, eh? What a time.
What a time to be alive. First of all, do you think that Nigel Farage can smooth things over for Anglo-US relations?
Yes, I do genuinely believe that. I think, and we need someone to play that role. Keir Starmer needs someone to play that role because his relationship with Donald Trump is now in tatters. Donald Trump infamously holds a grudge. If Keir Starmer was working for Donald Trump right now, he would be sacked.
Yeah.
End of discussion. And rightly so, I think. He dillied and he dithered and he made us look embarrassingly stupid when it came to supporting the US with the war. Look, I you know, there's not going to be any sort of debate over this. I agree with everything you said in your monologue just a moment ago. I think that what Donald Trump has done is a good thing. I think that Iran is an incredibly bad entity, our enemy. And I know not everybody agrees with that as well. I've had lots of people questioning that this week. I'd said somewhere else that Iran is our biggest enemy. Someone said, what makes you think that, Paul? But at the same time, these are the same people who don't believe that Russia are our enemy. They solely believe that our only enemy is our own government. And I totally understand that, but it's way beyond that. If only our only enemy was our own government. Unfortunately, our own government tend to do things that support our enemy.
Well, that's interesting you said that. So are there some raised eyebrows on the political right about this war in Iran?
Yeah, there absolutely is. I think it emanates from America First, which is different to MAGA, which is a sort of if you look at it as reform and restore in the UK, there is a split on the right. There's a split on the right in America as well. And what America First and Restore peeps want is for our interest and our interest only to be looked after.
Well, I think that's exactly right. I think you've got to the crux of it. And my point about Trump is that he's doing this war in Iran. He's actually got no skin in the game. There is no political advantage to him in doing this, which I therefore consider very noble and very laudable.
Yes, me too.
Where's his incentive?
Well, some people, cynically, I think a lot of people believe his incentives are entirely tied to Israel. It feels like Israel is leading on this war, and they probably are, to be honest.
Sure.
But the might is with America, and Israel can't do it without America. And the fact these two are together just shows what we could have achieved with America as well.
Well, I just think that it demonstrates that whilst Donald Trump says a lot of crazy and stupid things, he's very narcissistic. I don't think he's a particularly honest man, right? He indulges in a bit of doublespeak here and there, but I judge people by their actions, not their words. And if you take away the hyperbole and the ridiculous claims that British troops didn't do their bit in Afghanistan, all the rest of it, here's a guy that has right on his side. I think there's a moral case for this war in Iran.
Yes, it all depends on where your moral compass points, obviously.
He's a good man.
I think so. I genuinely believe that what we are doing and what he is doing, we're not, unfortunately, we're not part of that collective we. I feel like we should be, and I feel like many of us are.
Yeah.
But there's plenty against it. There's been some really insightful polls this week. I think some of them have had sort of presumptuous positive leading questions against the war, so it's very difficult to tell. And by the way, I'm no war hawk or warmonger. Obviously no war is better than war. However, you have to look at the reality of the situation. The head of the snake is Iran. Everything is sponsored and financially supported by Iran that is against us in terms of Islamism, and at some point, somebody was going to have to do it. And let's not pretend people haven't tried to talk about doing it previously. Many previous American governments have said they would do something. They've done nothing. Donald Trump tends to say what he's going to do, and then he goes and does it, and that's where we find ourselves.
Most definitely. Warm words are of no use when an autocratic regime like Iran is developing nuclear weapons. If they get the bomb, it's over.
Yes. Can you imagine that if they had the bomb right now, we would all be in peril?
Well, Israel, forget about it. I mean, just get the hell out. You could run for the hills.
You could see the fear on Isabel Oakeshot's face because her children are waiting in the corridor.
I know.
And I don't know Isabel. Obviously seen her commentating on this channel a lot.
Yeah.
And I know who she is. But I could tell she was, as a mum, worried about the situation. By the way, that would be for every single one of us if Iran had nuclear capability.
It's a really, really good point. And already they got plenty of weapons. The second largest gas reserves on planet Earth, even though they've got a broken economy because their economic model is communism, by the way. People forget that, even though I thought the communists were really left and caring and very sweet, good people. The whole thing is wild. The Prime Minister has had a mare on this one. He can't even claim a win from British Muslims because now he's deploying a ship to the region, and also he is allowing the use of UK air bases, but that was after refusing them earlier. So he's pleased no one.
No, he hasn't, and that's because he hasn't got a backbone. If rumours to be believed, he did want to allow the use of our air bases. It was Miliband and
Mahmoud and Yvette Cooper.
Yeah,
who by the way, I always accidentally call her Yvette Yvette Fielding. And I don't think that the ex-BBC presenter and host of
she does look haunted.
Nicely done. I thought Yvette... I will say that I think Yvette Fielding would be a better foreign secretary than Yvette Cooper.
Lots of people would.
In fact, maybe we could put all of Blue Peter presenters in the cabinet and we'd have a better job.
Exactly.
Richard Bacon, head of maybe the Home Office.
Wouldn't that be something?
Valerie Singleton, Deputy PM and Chancellor.
Can you imagine? And, Theakston, he'll be in there somewhere.
Oh, Theakston's got to have the gig, and then Goldie the dog as Prime Minister.
Goldie, that's ageing us.
Because we would have a Prime Minister with bite for the first time in a few years.
Look, he is a weak, spineless coward of a man. He doesn't. He's a you know, I know it's an old adage, but he's a lawyer, not a leader. He has never had to form an opinion. He's had a whole career of never forming an opinion, following law, international law, and following orders from others. Never having to form the opinion himself. Now, if you're going to lead this great country, and we still are a great country, we're just a sleeping lion.
Correct.
That's all it is.
Correct. We're wounded, but, you know,
if you are
not
going
dead.
if you are going to, you've got to lead it with some backbone. Yeah, and look, do you know what? I don't have to agree with everything either. Even if he'd come out and said he was ideologically disposed to not wanting to go to war with Iran because, you know, he supports the Muslim vote in the UK. I mean, we all know it's the truth, but at least he'd have the backbone to come out and say it. We should then immediately look at getting rid of him because that's no good for us internally. But I just do not see... The only reason the man's surviving at the moment is the May elections haven't happened and war is good for him because war is a huge distraction. Because we are not focusing on anything else.
And you know Rachel Reeves, Rachel from Accounts, is going to be seizing on this Iran conflict to explain why inflation goes back up, why growth has disappeared and why unemployment's returning. Well, I'm afraid not. All of that was in the pipeline long before these attacks.
Yes, and they're cynically framing it and setting it up as such. Because, you know, we had the spring statement earlier in the week, which was I
enjoyed it. What did you do? I had a spring statement party with a couple of friends around.
Yes, there was lots to celebrate.
We did the little mini sandwiches where we cut the crust off and everything.
It was absolutely nice. It was a nothing burger. Nothing was...
It was pathetic.
There was nothing to celebrate whatsoever. And you just know that the way they're going to frame this going forward is we didn't choose to go to war and the war is affecting our economy. There's nothing we could have done about it. There's everything we could have done about it. And if we stand in solidarity, and they're always by the way, the left, socialist, communist, solidarity. Where's that word gone now? It's only ever solidarity when it's in favour of what your ideology is. And this is completely and utterly Donald Trump derangement syndrome. There is no other way to describe it.
Well, what about this? And this will have you spitting your cornflakes out if you're listening at 6:29 in the morning. Paul Cox, HMS Dragon mission delayed because dockyard only works 9 to 5. The deployment of HMS Dragon to Cyprus has been delayed because the naval base where it's being repaired only operates from 9 to 5 as a result of union rules. The warship is being sent to protect a British base on the island following its attack by Iranian drones last weekend, but its departure has been held up to allow staff to finish welding and other maintenance, which doesn't happen at the weekends.
Totally a political decision. I'm from Portsmouth. I know many people in my life that work within the dockyard, have worked within the dockyard. Whenever we've been on a war footing before, it's gone 24/7. It hasn't gone 24/7 now because the Labour government has not put us on a war footing. They could turn it just like that. If we were being attacked, and by the way, we are being attacked. Cyprus has been 2 attempts, 1 strike by a drone. We are under attack. We either protect our people, and how embarrassing, by the way, is it to send the Spanish, the French and the Greek there before we even do? It's the only boat they've stopped crossing the Channel, Mark.
You couldn't make it up, could you?
It's mental.
You couldn't make it up at all. It is 6:30. Nigel Farage heading over to the United States for a face-to-face with Donald Trump. Can he save the special relationship? This is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your...
You're listening to Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan with you until 10 a.m. Dolan's dispatch at 9 a.m, in which I'll be dealing with the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, in no uncertain terms. A dishonest man, a disingenuous man, a dangerous man who is working against the British national interest and is arguably a threat to our national security. That is today's Dolan's dispatch at 9 a.m. Front pages of today's newspapers. Daily Mail revealed the jaw-dropping thing Andrew said to William at royal funeral, and terror fears over Iranian London spy cell. An alleged Iranian spy ring was smashed by British police yesterday amid warnings that many more cells may be preparing potentially violent operations in Britain. Now, this is what I would say to woke progressives who are out there on the streets defending the Iranian regime. This is the most dangerous country, the most dangerous political administration since the Third Reich. You heard me right. Iran is the worst government since Hitler's administration in the 1930s. They sponsor such a large portion of terror globally. They are developing nuclear weapons, a massive threat to order in the Middle East and beyond. They have to be dealt with. They have to be dismantled. And where was Britain? Where was Sir Keir Starmer in America and Israel's hour of need? AWOL, absent without leave. If only Starmer would permanently go AWOL. What an AWOL he is. The Times newspaper, surrender warns Donald Trump, and The Guardian, Trump demands Iran's unconditional surrender. So Farage goes, Paul Cox, to the United States. He's there this weekend, and he's got the VIP experience at Mar-a-Lago, the red carpet. Donald Trump wants to meet him. Is Nigel Farage a Prime Minister in waiting?
It's a good question. I mean, it's very difficult to say. Obviously, in terms of the polls, he's very popular. It's very quickly becoming a two-horse race between Reform and Green. So you've got a choice between sanity and absolute mental illness. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned. But there are plenty of people that have lurched to the left because the left have failed, and they think the only way that they can solve the left problem is to continue going further left and hoping in those deep, dark woods is some hope, and there isn't. Obviously, Zach Polanski is bananas. There's no other way of putting it. I just don't see it in any other way. So yes, there is every chance in probability, and if you're a betting man, you probably would put your money on Nigel Farage. And Donald Trump sees that as well. Donald Trump sees that perhaps there is a future relationship with Great Britain that could be positive, that he could garner some strength from if Nigel Farage is our Prime Minister.
Well, I think what Nigel Farage understands, and to be fair, what Tony Blair understood and what Boris Johnson understood, is that the US-UK special relationship is non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
And I'm afraid to say that America is the senior partner. We are dependent on the largesse of America and its military might for our own survival. And therefore, if the Americans say jump, our response is how high? I'm so sorry. That's where we are, Paul.
Well, what's the alternative? Europe? You know, this is a decaying economy with no army, who doesn't particularly support us politically.
Open borders.
Open borders, yeah. That each country with its huge, great issues, not brought together by the European Union, but fractured by the European Union. America is our only hope. It really is. And they've got the biggest army in the world. Why would we stand aside and let them become independent of us?
You have to wonder, don't you? Let's take a voice note. This is Anna in Surrey. Anna, first voice note of the day. I'm prioritising voice notes today. Take a listen to this.
Morning, Mark. Anna, sorry. Donald Trump has done what should have been done, what needed to be what every Western leader is too cowardly to do. So I thank him for that. It's a shame our own leader isn't as strong. Whilst we sit here letting our country fill up with Islamics, they are planning. As soon as there's enough of them to take our forces on, they're going to attack us. and they're going to try to turn us into Iran. And it's being facilitated by the weak, over-liberal, pro-Islamic government that currently terrorise its British citizens. Thank you.
Well, powerful words there from Anna. Of course, Anna, there is no evidence that such an uprising from within the British Muslim community would actually manifest. But can I say you're entitled to your view? And I will say, Paul Cox, that there is a concern about radical Islam in this country, and there is a deafening silence from moderate Muslims on that issue.
Yes, they're a homogenous group, that's why. Unfortunately...
A voting bloc.
They're a voting bloc. We aren't. And because we've got a democracy and because we've had freedom for a very long time, and these shores have not been attacked successfully for over 1,000 years, we've become a little bit soft in the centre, unfortunately. And a lot of these particularly extremist Islamists don't have the same moral compass as us. They don't live by the same rules by which we live. Culturally, they're incredibly different. They look at women and children and all those things differently to us. And I think we do need moderate Muslims to stand up to those extreme Muslims, but they're not going to. If they were going to, they would do by now, because we've had some incredibly horrific terrorism from that part of our community. And, you know, Anna's right to be scared, because they can operate very... And you only have to look at the Denton and Gorton, or Gorton and Denton by-election to see how much the Greens are leaning into that as well, by the way. They're going to extrapolate that whole strategy across the UK. And by the way, of the 600 constituencies, about 140 of them have greater than 10% Muslim incumbents. So that strategy could work across as much as 150, 160 constituents. And if the Labour vote collapses, even more. So it is very possible to see a way to a Green government.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I don't know if you remember, it was a couple of years ago, before he became Prime Minister, Keir Starmer recorded a video for British Muslims, and it was in the run-up to Remembrance Weekend. And the Prime Minister had been wearing his poppy all day, all morning, and also all afternoon. But the poppy mysteriously disappeared for the recording of the video. And Downing Street disingenuously said that this was an accident or a mistake, it was not intentional. Well, the same Prime Minister this week has spoken to British Muslims, first of all being rather sort of mollycoddled and manhandled by the unofficial diplomat to Palestine. You see that? With very cuddly, sort of, you know, whispering in the ear, "Thank you, Prime Minister, for being so supportive of our cause." Meanwhile, the PM proudly tells British Muslims that the UK did not support the initial strikes on Iran. Why is the British Prime Minister defending not striking Iran and supporting America? Because of an electoral constituency that now controls the governing party of this country.
Because it's Keir Starmer before party and party before country. These are dangerous people. Make no mistake about it. Keir Starmer, his version of socialism, the way that they despise the British, the way that they despise, by the way, even more than the British Armed Forces. I've said this before. I do not believe that a Labour government should be in control of our military, because we are going to be in trouble if they are.
Well, that's very interesting that you say that, and that's the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch. I think there is a national security concern around our current Prime Minister, and you have this voting bloc of British Muslims, and they are going to begin to influence, maybe already are, Paul, British foreign policy.
Yes, they absolutely are. And never have we seen such sectarianism within this country, by the way. And because we've essentially allowed multiculturalism to thrive. And by the way, you can have multi-ethnicities. We all know people of different backgrounds and different ethnicities.
Greeks, Italians, Caribbeans, yeah, and it's not been a problem.
No, exactly. But you have to have one homogenous culture, and it has to be British. And by the way, it starts with wearing the poppy all day long, even if you're going to see Muslims. That is what... if you're showing that level of weakness and kowtowing to a small minority, you can see where the country's heading, and it's a worry.
It is a real worry indeed. Barry says, "Good morning, Mark. I wonder what a future American reaction would be if it was likely the UK became a Muslim country with nuclear weapons." Elliot says, "Wake up. Islam will put up with British law until it no longer needs to. They already operate Sharia courts. Islam does not compromise." Now, Now, is this Islamophobic? And is this a conspiracy theory that somehow the British Muslim community is growing to such an extent in this country that we will no longer be Britain in a few years' time?
First of all, there's no such thing as Islamophobia. I'm a firm believer of that. And if you are scared of Islam, you have great reason to be, because they've blown up children in music arenas, Westminster Bridge, London Bridge, the Houses of Parliament,
9/11,
7/7. You have every reason to be scared, but Islamophobia is not a thing. In fact, it's a magnificent controlling mechanism. And if they manage to redefine what Islamophobia is, it will play straight into the hands of the left and the Greens, because we will not be able to have an open debate. It's very difficult to have a debate anyway, because everyone calls you bigoted or racist if you do. But you imagine if it's illegal to have the debate, which is exactly what could happen under a redefinition of Islamophobia.
Most definitely. I've got a voice note coming in from Pete. When you're ready, load that up for me if you can, David. And what about Starmer? I mean, the bottom line is he's on borrowed time. Nobody is happy. His efforts to placate his own backbenchers are not working. His efforts to placate the British Muslim community are not working. Look at the Green result in Gorton and Denton. And of course, everybody that's got any common sense can't stand him. This guy has no support. He's got no constituency now whatsoever.
No, exactly. There was a poll out this week that said that 42% were in favour of him staying, 43% of Labour voters were in favour of him going. I don't know what the rest were doing. I assume they were drunk.
You have to wonder, don't you? Can I ask you about this front page in the Weekend poll? UK voters say no to joining war with Iran. Half of public backs Starmer's decision to limit UK involvement in attacks. I'll just have this as an example of where I disagree with the majority of my fellow countrymen.
Also, and me too, by the way, but also, we don't know how that question was asked, framed, who to, how big the sample size was, and it's in the Eye.
Which is a left-leaning publication,
yes,
with an agenda.
So I'm not suggesting, I'm not surprised by that, but I would like to see exactly what the question was, how it was framed, and who asked it and to whom, because I don't believe that number. I think there is a lot more people that don't know, and rightly so. It's war, it's dangerous. No one wants to see dead people.
No one does. Do you think that in some ways people are remembering the Iraq war and the weapons of mass destruction which turned out not to exist? Is that the problem? Do those people have a point?
Yes, they do. And ironically, and quite cynically, I've seen Alistair Campbell talking this week as if he had absolutely nothing to do with the Iraq war, by the way. He put together the dodgy dossier. He convinced us all, including me, that they had weapons of mass destruction.
He's arguably responsible for hundreds of thousands of dead people.
Well, yes, a very strong argument too.
But he's on a podcast coming across as one of the good guys.
Well, yes, and don't they all? Don't they all? Anyway, look, I think that we're right to be scared, and there are a lot of people who are unsure. But, like we've both said, if Iran get nuclear weapons and if they're able to continue to fund and sponsor Islamist terrorism across the world, then we are in massive trouble. We're already in massive trouble. There are 12 proxies. We know the big name ones. We know the Houthis, we know Hezbollah, we know Hamas. I mean, that isn't enough. They've got another 9 or 8 proxies that they're funding.
Paul Cox is coming in hot this morning. It is 6:45, Talk Breakfast. Tracy, good morning, Mark. A phobia is an irrational fear of something. There is nothing irrational about being scared of a threat. It's also not racist. Tracy there talking about radical Islam. And Tracy, you are so right to call it out. May I give you a round of applause for that? Joanna in Salisbury always talks a lot of sense. Hasn't Salisbury got a beautiful cathedral?
It's absolutely. I've heard Russians are thoroughly interested in it as well.
Aren't they just? Look out for the sushi. Joanna says, good morning, Mark and Paul. If Starmer was a statesman, he'd be on a plane to the US with a grovelling apology. But his statement about Trump when he wasn't president hasn't gone away. It's what he believes. It's left to Nigel Farage, who isn't even the official opposition, to try and placate the situation. Iranian Shia Muslims see Sunni Muslims as westernising traitors to Allah. It's mostly Sunni Muslims countries that are attacked. It's the Catholic and Protestant Christians that we had of old. Another message, good morning, Mark and Paul. I'm currently relaxing on the beach in Egypt.
Oh, wow.
Enjoying your show and laughing along. How about Starmer redeeming himself and getting back the public's respect? He should get his party together and tell them that he's now calling a general election. That would put them all on the back foot and stop them controlling him. Tracy, I wouldn't rule it out. I do think that Starmer could call the bluff off his backbenchers at some point. He's got the power of patronage. He can dissolve the parliament, and surely that's the ultimate weapon he has. By the way, what a weapon he is. What a useful tool we have as a Prime Minister. So much more to come. Let's take a quick voice note from young Peter.
Morning, Mark. I'm beginning to wonder which controls Starmer the worst, stupidity or arrogance. And I think it's arrogance, right? He has this mindset of a communist, and he's got something, he's got an agenda to fill, isn't he? It doesn't matter who it harms, what it damages, as long as his agenda gets filled, that's it. It seems to me it's an agenda of hate. He hates this country, hates everything it stands for. It's an absolutely ridiculous situation to be in, to upset the Americans. I'm also, if I'm a cynic, think that has someone on the Muslim vote side got something on him? Because he seems to bend over backwards for this demographic at the expense of the majority of people in this country, which really it started to point to now something sinister going on where Starmer is concerned. Have a nice day, mate.
Peter, what an excellent voice note. We're prioritising voice notes on the show today. Today? There you go. Oh, dear. There's a Freudian slip. Hello, missus. Shut that door. Folks, so much more to come. More front pages, more gay euphemisms, and the brilliant Paul Cox next.
No doubt that the British government has acted in an incredibly weak, equivocal way. It's easy to start a war, very difficult to ensure that the aftermath doesn't descend into complete chaos.
What's your view of that outburst of Trump?
Well, Trump doesn't mince his words, but I think his criticism is justified. I mean, we should have realised where our national interest stood, and he should have expressed immediate support.
We have pursued a ludicrous energy policy, preceding this government, frankly, and all the knock-on effects to that for our economy are catastrophic.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, Mark says, usually in Bexhill-on-Sea. Why aren't China worried that if America get to control Iran, China won't be getting oil through the Strait of Hormuz? Well, I think they are worried, usually, and I think it's another excellent reason why we should have these airstrikes on Iran. Big Barry is in Norwich. Top of the morning, Barry. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Happy Saturday to you. How are conditions in Norwich this morning?
Dreek, misty, cloudy.
Now, Dreek is a lovely Scottish word, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So we drink this morning. I sound like Alan Brazil. Listen, Barry, what do you think? First of all, is it right that America and Israel are trying to dismantle Iran?
Yes, I believe so. I do firmly believe that, and I believe this country, well, not the country, the so-called leader of this country, Mr. Starmer, is an absolute disgrace for this nation. Yeah, right. The way he's behaved towards the whole thing. I mean, the fact being that we can't even get a frigate out of dock, in there for over 10 days is just disgusting. And we should be there with Trump. He's our biggest ally. America's our biggest ally, and we should be right behind them. But I have to disagree with you on one thing.
Go on.
It's not very often that I disagree with you on things, but I will have to disagree on this one. You said the reason why we have ISIS and other terrorist groups is because of Iran. No, the reason why we have ISIS and other terrorist groups is because of this country, America and France. When we went into Iraq, we removed Saddam Hussein and didn't replace him with anyone. Libya, we removed Colonel Gaddafi and we didn't replace him with anyone. Syria, the regime went left and not replaced by anybody. That's the reason why, we removed these dictators from power, and then they never are replaced. I mean, when Saddam Hussein was in power and Gaddafi was in power, as much as they were horrendous, horrible individuals, they had control there. Yeah,
they kept the lid on the powder keg.
Yeah. So even and the one in, I forget the one in Syria now as well. Assad. Assad, yeah. They, as much as they were despised by people in the West, they kept a lid on things. They stopped these groups from forming. Since then, they've had free reign.
Gaddafi was the devil, Saddam Hussein was the devil, Assad was the devil,
Well, I do pull people up on this Saddam Hussein thing because we funded them when Russia went into Afghanistan when they were fighting the Iran-Iraq war. We funded them.
We liked him. We liked Saddam. We thought he was a secular leader that we could do business with, Barry, and we enriched him.
Yeah. So a lot of the weapons that were being fired at us had made in Britain on them. Yeah.
So Barry, you're right about that. You're right to correct me on ISIS, which is in many ways the legacy of Blair and Bush. Fair point, and I'll take that. Barry Bazza, I want to ask you though: are we therefore making the same mistake all over again? Is this the Iraq War 2.0?
I think it's a lot different from Iraq because, like you said, we don't have the sexed up dossier. We don't need a dossier to see what's going on in Iran. He murdered over 40,000 people over there. He hung a 14-year-old girl apparently the other week for being raped. They are a mad regime, but they've been preparing for this since 1979, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? You take one out and one's replaced, right? And you replace them with another one. I think the people have to, it's going to be different from Venezuela. Do you know what I mean? I've got a funny feeling this is going to go on for a little while longer. But I think give it time. I think because what we don't understand in this country, in the West, Iran isn't just one people, there's separate clans there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, do you know what I mean? And it's not just like the whole people can rise up and take, it's very tribal. And, it's not like the whole people can rise up like the whole country. Half of the country might rise up, half of the country won't.
The problem with Donald Trump, right, Barry, is I believe he's a man of honour because he's got no skin in the game. There is no political advantage to these airstrikes on Iran, which makes him heroic in my view. Right, he's doing it because it's the right thing to do, as far as I can judge. But Barry, does he have a plan for when this regime falls? Is that not the big concern? Donald, we know, has the attention span of a goldfish.
Yeah, this is the thing, you see. This is what happened in Iraq and Libya, and Syria and Afghanistan. We went in Afghanistan for 20 years, do you know what I mean? Yeah, and the regime was replaced with the regime we were trying to get rid of in the first place, handed it back to the Taliban. Is this going to be the same thing? I don't know.
Do you have confidence in Donald Trump that there's a plan? Because many, even his supporters, do not.
I have confidence in Donald Trump. I like him. I agree with a lot of the things that he says. I wish we had a leader like that in this country. Someone who does what they say they're going to do. But I think, like you say, the problem is it's easy to start a war. It's not easy to finish it.
Oh, my God, Barry, you are on fire this morning, dropping some truth bombs, and I really appreciate your pushback on my remarks about ISIS. Spot on. Please call me again soon. Brilliant conversation. Have a good day over there in East Anglia, Barry. What do you think about that? That's a worry, isn't it, Paul Cox? Whether or not Donald Trump has a plan for when this regime falls.
By the way, Big Barry, big opinions, great work.
Isn't it?
That's fantastic listening to Barry there. Enjoy the rest of your day, Bazza. Look, I think the way that Donald Trump is going about his global politics is different to what we saw under George W. and under Tony Blair. They had ideologies which said, we're going to go in, we're not only going to overthrow the regime, but we're also going to dictate and direct how the future of those countries are led. As far as I can tell, if you take Venezuela into consideration, what Donald Trump has done is gone in and removed the nucleus and said, now you rebuild. I think he's going to do the same with Iran. So I think that he's not got this ideology. And you can say that's not a plan, but it is a plan in many ways, because some of the problems that we've had in the past have all been about saying to these completely different cultures, this is how we want you to run your part of the world, and it's never worked, and it's never gonna work in the future.
Well, I know. I will say you've got plenty of supporters out there, Paul, because Nicola in Norfolk has messaged the show and says, "Good morning, Mark and Paul. I've been surprised by the number of people I know who say we should stay out of the war, but when I explain the same points as Paul Cox and say it doesn't make us less of a target if we're not involved because Iran's mantra is death to the West, they change their minds. I also remind them of the saying, evil triumphs when good men stand by and do nothing." 6:58. You're not late. It is early morning. So much more to come. Let me know your thoughts on this. Old Nigel Farage is now in the United States. Is he a prime minister in waiting? Can he save the special relationship? We've also got more front pages to come. And live in the studio, former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. We've got a shocking news story. An illegal immigrant assaults 3 young women and he goes to jail. It's going to cost us a fortune, maybe 40 or 50 grand a year to accommodate this man at His Majesty's pleasure. When is enough when it comes to illegal immigration? And Ian Huntley is hours away from death as they switch off the life support. He won't be mourned, will he? More to come. This is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Past 7, Mark Dolan, Talk Breakfast. I've missed you hugely. I'm back, and I'm back with a vengeance. Today, Saturday, tomorrow, 6 till 10, and I'm looking after breakfast on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week in for the brilliant Jeremy Kyle. So it's good to be back and so much to get through. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. Breaking this morning, the leader of Reform UK arrives in the United States for a face-to-face meeting with US President Donald Trump. So can Nigel Farage save the special relationship? Is he a Prime Minister in waiting? Meanwhile, a top diplomat reveals the PM was told weeks ago about America and Israel's plans in the Middle East, but the government dragged their heels in deploying military support to our allies. We've got the inside story. This has the makings of a political scandal. Meanwhile, an illegal immigrant is jailed for assaulting 3 young women. When is enough enough? And could the BBC face a second Donald Trump lawsuit as it's revealed they misrepresented yet another speech? And the Soham double murderer Ian Huntley is now hours away from death as his life support system is switched off. Is there an argument for bringing back the death penalty? He's 52 years of age and he may well die whilst we are on air. Is it important now to have that conversation? Why do we pay to accommodate the likes of Ian Huntley? Do we need a return to capital punishment? It's all about your opinions. And a woke government body says flying the flag of the United Kingdom is a tool of hate. Do you agree? Is our flag hateful? My number is 03444991000. Safira is on the phones today, and let me tell you, she's delivering. I've got a full switchboard. You can also text the word talk and your message to 87222, and we are prioritising voice notes because it's all about getting your opinions on the radio and on the telly. You can listen to us on DAB+, in-app and online, because the DNA of talk is in radio. But let me tell you that we are a TV network as well. So if you want to watch the show, I'd highly recommend it because it's very lively and it's chaos in the studio at the moment. I'm going to describe what's going on in just a second. But if you want to watch Talk Breakfast, head to YouTube, search Talk, hit the live button and up we pop. You don't want to miss a second of it. As the saying goes, let's talk. So much to get through. I'm delighted to say I've got front pages. I've got some brilliant studio guests as well. But first of all, we're giving you the chance to win 2 hospitality tickets to the British Grand Prix on Sunday, the 5th of July, with the full Racing Green trackside experience. This is the ultimate setup for race day. You'll get exclusive grandstand seats at the Loop and Village Corners, plus inner track access to watch the drivers arriving at the paddock. I've got to say, it's an incredible experience, plus access to the hospitality shuttle bus for easy on-site transport, racing simulators and live music between sessions. And this is really playing to my preferences. All-day street food and an open bar. You are welcome. Fill your boots. Take a listen and find out how you could be in with a chance to win.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 20th of March 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Good luck, one and all. I hope you are very successful in that competition. Front pages. Weekend. UK voters say no to joining war with Iran. Daily Mirror. Trump assault claims probed by FBI. That is some evidence that the president is implicated in the Epstein files. Daily Express, Camilla's plea for children to get away from their phones. The Sun newspaper, Oasis split. Not the band. Noel and girlfriend Sally broke up. Well, I've got no doubt that Noel Gallagher doesn't fancy a long-term relationship because his ex-wife took him to the cleaners to the tune of about 20 million quid. No wonder he's lost his appetite for the opposite sex. Daily Telegraph, Putin helps Iran attack the US. And you've got woke lefties in this country saying we should not be striking the most evil regime in the world. So much to get through. It is 7:08 in the morning. Live in the studio, I'm delighted to welcome broadcaster and comedian Paul Cox, who, let me tell you, is tearing it up on YouTube at the moment. What's the name of the channel?
At Paul Cox Comedy.
It's one of the destinations for common sense and plenty of lols. And I'm delighted to say, speaking of common sense, we have retired former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Mark.
We managed to get you connected to a microphone. We've got the earpiece.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah. What about, where's your coffee?
Oh, well, that's here.
Yeah, let's get that sorted. Mike, it's great to have you in the studio. We are ready for a healthy dose of common sense. Is there a danger that America and Israel, their action in the Middle East, is it the Iraq War 2.0?
This is the trouble, isn't it? You know, we've seen it all before, haven't we? What is the end plan? And we saw it all over these, I remember the Arab Spring, everybody was there. Oh, what a wonderful thing. We have all these democratic states, and it just ends up in a big mess. There's a void left, evil people take over, and so that is the real fear.
And you're ex-military, and you know what these lads and ladies are going through to liberate a place like Iraq and Iran, and it's a laudable aim, but it's all about what happens next.
It is a mess, and what you're trying to impose, they try to impose Western values on a place where they don't really want Western values. You know, my brother was out in Afghanistan and Iraq. I just did Northern Ireland as a soldier. But what you have there, for example, somebody gets killed, a man gets killed. In Britain, we want a trial. You know, they'll have a trial, a murder trial. What they want there is £500. You know, if a girl gets killed, it's £50. And that's the way it is. You know, that their system is different. Can we criticise it and say we're better than them? But by trying to impose our ways on them, it just doesn't work. You know, they're different people.
However, do you back, as an ex-military man yourself, do you back America and Israel's actions in regard to Iran?
Well, the danger is if Iran ever got a nuclear weapon, what would happen to Israel? You know how much I've come on here and supported the Jewish people in particular, but also Israel, the only democracy in that part of the world, and to the idea that they could just launch an atomic weapon against Israel is truly shocking.
Israel's war is our war, Mike.
I stand firm with Israel, yes.
And therefore, do you, with a heavy heart, accept what America and Israel are doing? There's a concern about what happens next. But overall, if you'd been Prime Minister, would you have backed the president? Would you have allowed use of those air bases from day one?
Of course, yeah. America are our greatest allies. I'm wearing my Kentucky Colonel badge as we speak.
Well, tell me what, because I thought that was something to do with the KFC.
Colonel Saunders was a Kentucky Colonel, but so was the Queen and Pope John Paul, several presidents, and Elvis. I've got the list of Kentucky Colonels. A friend of mine who's a US Army colonel, he put me up for the honour, and it was very nice to receive it from the state governor. So,
well, listen, congratulations to you. Actually, that is a great honour, and I know that you're a patriot, but you admire America as well, and see America as our number one ally. In a conversation I had with Paul Cox earlier, we both agreed that our commitment as a country to the special relationship must be non-negotiable.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the trouble is, though, you've seen how our armed forces have just been hollowed out, really. The fact that we can't even send one ship. If you look back at 1982 with the Falklands campaign, in 48 hours, a whole fleet of ships was sent to the Falklands. No, we can't even put one ship out. It's truly scandalous. And what always strikes me about the armed forces is that I come from a Bolton council house. The armed forces give the best opportunity for somebody, poor lads in particular, to make it in the world. And every time they drop, the number of sailors, the number of soldiers, airmen, they ruin the chances of somebody from those backgrounds.
And let's be fair, Paul Cox, we cannot lay this embarrassing national humiliation exclusively at the door of this government or the Prime Minister. We've seen our military hollowed out after 1.5 decades of Tory rule.
Absolutely. I think that we can blame it on Blairite politics, though, which was carried on from 97 through Labour and Conservatives right up till today. I mean, obviously, Starmer's rebelling against Blairite politics, but what Starmer's politics are, I mean, none of us really know. It's all a little bit mental. But I think the Tories and Labour are equally to blame in this. The last time we saw anyone really back our military was Lady Margaret Thatcher. That was the last time we saw anybody do anything. Like, if you go back to the Falklands, Mike was talking about the Falklands. I'm from Portsmouth, and we were talking about that earlier. And that Royal Navy then was prepared to go. Always prepared to go. There was a fleet of ships ready to go. They worked. At the moment, we've got one frigate, one destroyer available. One destroyer is HMS Dragon, and that's not even ready. They're still welding on that. And as you said earlier, they've got the dockyard under union rules saying we can only work 9 till 5. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. I think we're in a dire situation militarily as a country, and that's because, I said earlier, we've had so much peace and we've been so protected as an island that we've forgotten how dangerous the world is.
With a hollowed out military, Mike, our only hope was diplomacy, and we've just torched that with the White House, haven't we?
Well, absolutely. You've got the ridiculous situation of Starmer saying negotiate with Iran. These people are lunatics. You don't negotiate with lunatics.
Can I correct you there? The Prime Minister's very good with Muslims.
Well, we saw that speech, didn't we?
I didn't support the airstrikes. Please don't be unkind to me. Please vote for me at the next election.
It is truly dreadful, isn't it?
Did you see him being love-bombed by the head diplomat of Palestine, UK diplomat to Palestine this week? All stroked on the arm, whispers in the ear, thank you, Prime Minister, for your support.
It's utterly dreadful, isn't it, that we've entered a stage of sectarian politics. We saw, as a soldier in Northern Ireland, you saw that how sectarian politics is so divisive, how it can ruin a nation, result in seemingly civil war.
And it inspires murder, doesn't it?
It does. And we've seen that here. We've now got that where people are voting on sectarian communal lines. It isn't good enough. It is not the Britain that we want.
No, the question I've got for you then in regards to the influence of certain communities on our politics, well, it goes beyond that. It's now influencing foreign policy by the looks of it. Is the genie out of the lamp, or can it go back in?
I think it's out of the lamp, really. How do you ever put it back in? I mean, you have these... We've already had MPs... People in Oldham are voting for councillors based on what's happening in Gaza rather than what's happening in Oldham. This is the madness of the situation that we've allowed to develop. And we still have members of the royal family, the establishment, telling us that diversity is our strength. The strength is unity, and that's what's got to come in this country, and that's what we've lost. We all used to pull together on the same rope. Now everybody's pulling on their own string for their own agenda, and it's really, really bad.
Yes, I think evidence, Paul, of our disunited kingdom is our rather chaotic foreign policy, which may never realign.
No, I think in order for it to realign, you'd have to have some pretty draconian policies, some pretty draconian action take place. And I think anybody on the right that's talking about getting into power is essentially warming people up for great change, uncomfortable change.
Yeah.
This kind of Fabian-esque, step-by-step change that we've seen in the UK over the last 30 years, when maybe we haven't felt how uncomfortable it is because it's happened so slowly. But in order to resurrect Great Britain, we're going to have to make big, great swathes of changes within policy. And Mike's absolutely right. Diversity, by its very definition, is weakness. If I told you were going to get into a plane that was built in a diverse way, you'd want one that was built strong and together and united. It's no different with a country. You can have I was saying earlier, Mike, you can have multi ethnicities, but you have to have one culture. We have to be fighting from the same page every single step of the way. Otherwise, like you say, I mean, where I'm from, we've not seen quite the demographic change as you've seen in Greater Manchester, down in Hampshire, but it's there, and we can see that the sectarian way of life is going to harm us. It's already harming us. Look, if we have the Green Party in power, if you're worried about what Keir Starmer's doing now, or what Rayner might do if she comes in afterwards, or Wes Streeting, or even worse, imagine Ed Miliband with his ukulele. That is nothing by comparison if you had Zach Polanski and Hannah Spencer, and they're like in, because they will kowtow, they will pander, and we will suffer as a result.
It's very chilling, isn't it? Before you go then, what are these draconian measures that need to happen? At the next election, there's going to be a big choice facing the population. If Reform get in, what would that radical change look like?
I'm afraid they are. From my perspective, I think they are very draconian. I think
you're going to
remigration, deportation.
Right, so unilaterally close the border. So you're going to stop the boats come what may, and become an international pariah if needs be.
So what?
Right. So well done. So we stop the boats. Then legal net migration down to like what, net zero, effectively.
Yes, I think.
So we close the door for what, 5 years, so we can just catch up.
If you think of the country as a body, this body's got cancer, and we have to, chemotherapy is very draconian. It's kill or cure, and I'm afraid that's the position we find ourselves in.
Okay, and then you also mentioned that we actually ship people out as well. Deportation should be a central plank of an administration that's going to save
And could you
Britain.
imagine saying that out loud, let alone on a national television or radio station?
Well, a year ago it had got you cancelled. Now it's common sense.
Yeah, and unfortunately we do need that, and that will unsettle a lot of people, by the way.
Yes, and of course that would start with the Boris wave.
Well, I think what we're going to look at is when we say about multiculturalism, look at the loyalty of the Sikh community, for example. I've got friends, ex-soldiers, I've got a couple of ex-soldier, West Indian guys. They are absolutely committed to this nation. So it can work. This unity, we can have unity, but it's the communities who don't want to be part of that. They're the ones who are going to destroy Britain.
And is the problem Islam?
It really is, I think, yeah. So the loyalty there, the trouble is the loyalty is to the religion, not to the nation. And there are many people in this country who are Muslim who do support this country.
Listening to this show, watching this show, moderate, they run businesses, they've got great families.
And in my own family, I've got a weird family full of all sorts of different people.
I've got to say, your family is like the old school Jeremy Kyle show. Yeah, it's very confusing.
It is.
You've got sisters marrying brothers. I mean, it's a hot mess.
I've got an adopted Korean sister for one, but we've got to look at the people who are not committed to this nation. We've got to look at places like Denmark where they're saying we can't have these communities like Sparkhill in Birmingham, places in Bolton where it is just, it's not multiculturalism, it is simply an entity, it is a Muslim community, it's cut off from the rest. We can't carry on like that.
Denmark saw this coming and saved their country in 2014. 12 years ago they acted, because they saw this coming.
Absolutely.
And what have we been doing? Under the Tories and now Labour, asleep at the wheel, Mike.
Well, they have. Not only have we been asleep, but they've suppressed anybody discussing it. So talk is wonderful. We can come on here. We can debate these things. As you said, 5 years ago, we'd all be under arrest.
Correct.
So we've got to be able to debate this and say, how do we move forward? How do we unite the nation? Wherever you're from originally, how do we unite your nation and work together to make Britain great again?
Now, Paul, before you go, an issue that you've raised throughout the show today is the threat of radical Islam, which unfortunately a lot of moderate Muslims are turning a blind eye to, deafening in their silence, and they must act and they must speak out, but they never have, post 9/11 and beyond. Britain is to get an Islamophobia czar under new Labour government plans. How dangerous will it be if it becomes illegal to criticise a religion?
Incredibly dangerous. The idea of a czar, for me, is really quite sinister. It's not required whatsoever. That would suggest that that's the direction of travel we're going in, and they're happy for us to go. We all agree, all three of us, they've been asleep at the wheel, but I think by saying these people have been asleep at the wheel is giving them carte blanche, is letting them off the hook, because actually they've allowed it to happen knowing exactly that there would be cultural change, because they wanted it to prop up the economy, they wanted it to prop up their votes.
Powerful words.
And I think,
Michael.
I think there is no asleep at the wheel. As I always say, these people never sleep. The left never sleeps. They're always on their case. They're always driving forward this multicultural, diverse dream, rather than driving forward for a Britain where we're all working together. Absolute
joke. Listen, folks, more to come. Can I thank the brilliant Paul Cox? Paul Cox Comedy on YouTube.
Yep, yes, please. Come
Check
and
it
join
out.
me there.
And we'll see you very, very soon, Paul.
will.
Looking forward to that. I think we're going to have a beer on March 22nd.
We
as
are
well.
going
Look
to.
forward
Don't
that.
tell them where.
Alongside well, I'd love our audience to come because we could all get drunk together.
It's all the screaming girls I'm worried about again, Mark.
I'm afraid so, those fans. It's like Beatlemania
It's the same, yeah,
all over again. Thank you to Paul Cox. Labour's plan to hand fail asylum seekers' families up to 40 grand. Will it work? Also, an illegal immigrant has assaulted 3 young women. He's gone to jail. When is enough enough? And Ian Huntley may die whilst we're on air. Reaction next.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, says Ian in Merseyside. Regarding radical and expansionist political or religious ideology, there is a dangerous difference between tolerance and appeasement. Thank you for that. Keep those opinions coming. With me live in the studio, former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector, the brilliant Mike Neville. Michael, lovely to have you in the studio. Ian Huntley, the double Soham killer, he's been on life support after an attack in jail. He's in a vegetative state. They've switched off the life support. He may die whilst we're on air. What will the legacy be of his crimes, do you think?
Well, the wickedness and evil of his crimes, you know. Let's think about Holly and Jessica, the girls he killed. And my first thoughts are with the family. All this has been brought up again, so their parents, my best wishes and prayers to them. But his legacy is just, why do we keep these people alive? His life support should have been cut off with a rope around his neck. And I have always said I would be the hangman. We've had 60 years of liberal nonsense in the criminal justice system. How much money have we spent on keeping that wicked and evil man alive? He should have been hanged in 2003 when he was found guilty. And we really need a real debate about this. It's like we have an elite, we have an establishment who always vote against these things. What we need is the views of the people, just like we had with Brexit. When with Brexit, the establishment didn't like that. Too often, the people who allege to represent this nation don't represent our views at all. And I think when it comes to people like Huntley, they should be hanged.
Well, he took the lives of those two girls, and therefore I believe that his life should be the ultimate price. Some would argue better that he rots in jail and is, you know, loses his freedom and therefore lives through the punishment. Some people say it's too much of a let-off to die.
I don't think so. I think that moment in time when that bag gets put on your head and the rope is around your neck, that's sufficient. And then you can answer. I'm a religious man. You can answer to the ultimate judge, can't you, when you get up there and be sent downstairs to burn in hell.
Is the argument valid that you could have a miscarriage of justice?
Well, I think today we're in a very different situation, aren't we? We've got all DNA evidence, we've got CCTV evidence, we've got even the digital devices like Apple Watches tell us exactly the moment of death. And so I think you've got cases, haven't you? So you have cases where there may be some doubt, and they can be stay alive until the appeals have gone through.
If there's any margin for error, you don't do it.
But with somebody like Huntley, it is absolutely crystal clear what he's done.
Yeah.
He should have. So, like Lucy Letby, the nurse, there's all sorts of debates about this, and there's all sorts, and it's all circumstantial evidence. Where'd you go from that? However, with Ian Huntley, there was no doubt whatsoever. Look at the Moors murderers. How much money did we spend on keeping Hindley and Brady alive?
Yeah.
They should have been dispatched and got rid of.
Harold Shipman, Fred West, the list goes on, doesn't it? And the bottom line is that he will likely die this weekend, perhaps whilst we're on air. A truly disgusting human being. When you mention the rope, by the way, I mean, are you particularly fussed about the method by which capital punishment would happen?
No, not really. No, I think it's probably the best way they've dispatched. We see all these things in America using gas and injections, some of which go wrong. We were quite proficient at hanging people, you know.
So would you literally bring back the noose?
Of course, I think so. I think the symbol of it
is that
as well.
not a bit medieval?
No, I don't think so. I think it's like the judges sit in wigs and things. I think it sets the tone. This is what's going to happen.
Also, it's an unappetising death, isn't it? No one looks forward to the hangman's noose. A lethal injection is almost too humane.
Yeah, I agree. And it's sometimes you've got to have symbolism. And if you look back to sort of the 50s, you know, and then the 60s when they abolished the death penalty, at that time, a murder was front page news. You've got to kill 10 people now to get on the front page. It's too commonplace. Killing people is a wicked thing and you should be dealt with as such.
Most definitely. Now, another crazy story is a classic example of woke madness. And it's the idea that waving the Union flag is a tool of hate. We've got a voice note from Steve. Take it away, Steve.
Morning, Mark. Steve from Bassett Law. Just responding to your news about the government body saying that the waving of the Union Jack is a symbol of hate. Well, maybe we can just extend that logic so that actually the waving of any flag is a symbol of hatred, and therefore let's apply the law the same across all cultures, across all flags, because it's not the case, is it? It's another bit of silliness coming from our government. Thank you.
Thank you for a brilliant voice note, Steve. Let me bring you up to speed, Mike Neville. Flying English, Scottish and Union flags has been linked to tools of hate in a leaked draft of the government's new social cohesion strategy. It warns national symbols were sometimes used last summer to exclude or intimidate, and says the extreme right has tried to turn symbols of pride into tools of hate. Campaigns encouraged people to hang Union and St George's flags in streets and on lampposts last year. Supporters said it showed pride in the country. But the remarks appear in a leaked version of the government's community cohesion strategy titled Protecting What Matters. If a flag is a tool of hate, if you're triggered by the sight of a Union flag, then I would argue this country ain't for you.
Exactly. I mean, imagine going to France and saying the tricolour, you can't fly. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. People take... In America, I went to a thing where a whole team of people were brought in with flags, and they raised every flag for every soldier who'd been killed in the Afghanistan. Absolute pride in their nation. But the left here have always been ashamed of it. I think George Orwell was the one that said, you know, the left would rather steal from the poor box than stand to attention to sing God Save the King. They are absolute traitors. They're globalists, that's the thing. They don't like, but they do like their own flags. So waving pride flags, waving Palestinian flags, waving whatever flag is the fashion of the day, that is perfectly acceptable to the left. But flying your own flag is some kind of wickedness. It's beyond a joke.
Well, we've seen other government documents suggesting that if you think we should have firm borders or national cohesion, cultural identity, you're far right.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all far right. We've just got to take it on the chin, just say, yes, of course we are.
If you're not far right, have a word with yourself.
You're far wrong.
It's a badge of honour, baby.
If you're not, I say that's a badge of honour. The danger to this country is not far right. It is the far left that we see who are trying to destroy this nation and Hollywood. And we see it all through the establishment, the education, the policing, all through the far left have had far too much influence.
Haven't they just? You're so right about that. What about this in the Sun newspaper? Vile fiend, Afghan migrant jailed for 6 sex attacks on 3 women after ambushing them as they walked to work. A migrant has been jailed for a string of sex attacks on 3 women as they went about their day. Sohail Amiri, doctor or engineer, you guess, was staying in an asylum hotel in Southampton at the time, demanded kisses from the victims and grabbed at them. He then went on to attack them in the most egregious way possible. The married father of 2 committed the vile offences over a 2-month period whilst the women were alone. He's been jailed for 36 months after he was convicted of 2 charges of sexual assault against 2 women. Also found guilty of the attempted sexual assault of a 3rd woman on September the 23rd. When is enough, Paul? Mike?
Well, it's enough now, isn't it?
Yeah.
What we brought into this nation, we brought people here from cultures where women are not second-class citizens, they're 3rd, 4th and 5th-class citizens, and they can treat them as they want. My 2 youngest daughters live down in the New Forest, and I can even see the change there. It's amazing. And we know now, all the statistics about ethnic minority offending have been concealed for about 20 years. Now they're coming out. We know that Afghanis are 20 times more likely to commit sexual assaults than somebody British born. And yet we bring these people into the country. They bring nothing of value. What are they doing here? They're just coming here, and what we're doing, we're importing people who are putting women and girls particularly at risk. I can fight people off, you can fight people off, but too often they're targeting women and girls. And if you went to the prison now and looked at all the people who are guilty of sexual assault, if you look at my background, all 4 of my great-grandfathers were either in the First World War or down the pit. How many of those characters who are in prison now for sexual assault would fit that pattern?
Well, you're so right. Dean, shall we hang on to Mike for a couple of minutes and take some calls as well? Because what I want to do is get your opinions on the radio and on the telly. Mike Neville, are you able to stay for us for 10 minutes? That would be so fantastic. And we're going to get to your calls next. So much to get through. This is Talk Breakfast. It is 7:35.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile. and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm broken this morning.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast 7:36. I'm going to get to your voice notes in just a moment. Michelle in Altrincham, good morning, Mark. Great show this morning. I miss you on a Friday. Oh, well, that was temporary because Jezza, I've been doing some of Jezza's shows. He's been doing some of mine. So as a general rule, it is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I will say, Michelle, that I'm looking after Jezza's show on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, Talk Breakfast. So do join me then. And then following that, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to normal as of next week. She says, I always enjoy hearing Mike Neville. I tend to agree with what he says about capital punishment. Love the guests on today. It's made it a great listen. Keep up the good work. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for that. Kevin, Southampton. I live in Southampton, Mark. Very aware of what's going on here. It's an utter disgrace. These guys mostly are sexual savages. Kevin talking there about the consequences of illegal immigration. And Julia has posted a beautiful Union Jack flag. She says, good morning, Mark. Look at my flags. I feel like a criminal. Not. Julia, more power to you. You fly that flag, you fly it with pride. In fact, I don't know, can we get a flag behind me on the screen? I don't know if that's logistical. Shall we speak to management about that? With me in the studio is Mike Neville, former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector. And on the phone, Chris in Epsom. Good morning, Christopher.
Morning, Mark. Been a while since we spoke.
It's been too long, big man. I've missed you. I've missed your common sense. What's on your mind this morning?
All right. Well, first of all, I'd just like to say for the last 5 years, I've had a 25-foot flagpole at the front of my house. It changes between the Union Jack, the St George Cross, the Remembrance, and also I put an Easter flag up for Jesus, and I put a Christmas flag up for the kids. Now, Starmer is being led by Herma, and Felipe Sands, and their ideology in open borders and the ICJ. We saw that with the Chagos Island deal, which I believe Trump will stop now. But whilst this has been going, whilst everybody's been concentrating on Iran and his mistakes over Iran, I mean, we should have had warships in position as we have had for decades, but they've not been putting them to sea to test them or to do war games, because that's where they've been saving money to splodge on 28% for doctors and a load of other welfare benefits. Now, what's been going on underneath the cover of Iran is Gibraltar. Now, Fabian Picardo, the First Minister of Gibraltar, who was the leader of the Labour Party out there, just over a week ago, he folded his Labour Party into the ultra-left-wing Spanish Party, which is obviously came out and called Donald Trump a rogue nation. Now, at the same time, as soon as that happened, Starmer handed over border control to the Spanish. Now, there's two things that come along with that have not been discussed, and the treaty has not been published. Madrid now gets a veto on any Brit that wants to go and live in Gibraltar. Now, they may have control of the airport border, but what's happened to the marine border? Because that is of such strategic importance that we have a security pact with the USA, because it's the entrance to the Mediterranean, and it's one of the most important ports in the world. Now, guess who was Fabian Picardo's consultant on the ICJ? None other than Felipe Sands, the consul for Mauritius as well.
The man implicated in our surrender of the Chagos Islands. Chris, we could do an hour on that. Call me again soon. Very important what you're talking there about the geopolitics of this, and all of it boils down to our boundaries, our foreign interests and our national security, all of which are under threat at the hands of this current Prime Minister. Chris, I wish we had longer. Thank you for a brilliant call. Georgina is in the capital. Good morning, Georgina.
Good morning, Mark. Lovely to talk to you. Trump has got no faith or trust in Keir Starmer. In reality, Keir Starmer's made our United Kingdom look weak, pathetic and cowardly on the global stage. He's made us political pariahs. And still he continues to congratulate himself on his handling of this crisis. We all know that he got involved in the Middle Eastern crisis begrudgingly. The man has done nothing to help out our citizens in Cyprus. He's an ill-prepared coward. As far as France helping us is concerned, I feel that we've already paid that debt by giving them £750 million to watch our borders and keep it free of migrants, a job that they did not do. But I do take my hat off and owe a huge debt of gratitude to the USA, to Greece, to Spain, and to the Dutch for watching our backs and doing the job that this government were too incompetent and too ill-prepared to do. Starmer showed where his loyalties lie, Mark, only a few days ago when he invited the Muslim communities to the Hall of Westminster to celebrate Iftar. It's such a serious time for our country. He's still trying to get the votes from the Muslim communities. Is an utter embarrassment and a danger, I think, to our national security, our country and our population. We've probably imported thousands of sleeper cells of illegal migrants from the Channel. We've now been left with the enemy state right within the bosom of our country, thanks to this incompetent governmental ruling. As a patriotic British subject, having to watch and endure what this cowardly excuse of the government is doing to our country and its people is quite literally cleaving me in two. We've had our British military lines caged by the neglect of our defences over the years, right back to Margaret Thatcher. And now we're being governed by a gaggle of kumbaya, let's all be friends idiots that believe we can still negotiate with people with medieval ideologies whose only goal is to end Western civilization as we know it. We're not cowards, Mark. We're not conscientious objectors. We want to be there helping our allies eradicate the tyranny of Iran. Instead, this incompetent government are still trying to negotiate with this tyrannical regime. Every man or woman who at the moment are fighting with the great and the good against this tyranny is doing so not to save the world, Mark, as this would be too much to ask of any human being. They're there, each and every one of them, to save their families, save their friends, their communities. Every serviceman and woman are there to do their bit, and we should be allowed and given the opportunity to do the same. This is not just about liberating the Iranian people, Mark. This is about the eradication of a radical Islamic rule, both in Iran and throughout the Western Hemisphere. There are many would-be ayatollahs waiting out there to turn and to radicalize the country that's been kind enough to take them in and give them shelter. These people have no loyalty, and they rule by fear, and I'm absolutely terrified of what's to come.
Georgina, a devastating and important call. Mike Neville, Georgina speaks for many.
She does speak for many. She always comes on here with very articulate views, doesn't she, Georgina? So congratulations to her. But the country is an absolute mess. The trouble is with the Royal Navy, and I saw this in the police. In the police, 20 years ago, there used to be a crime-fighting force, and then diversity. We must have diversity. We must have equal opportunities. And those things took over, and people forgot. The senior managers forgot that our role was to catch criminals and prevent crime. And what I fear in the Navy is that you've got all the diversity, you've got all the equal opportunities. They've just forgot that we've got to have ships that go out and fight for this great nation. And the left have been insidious in undermining all our institutions. They've done it over a long time. They're very like the Fabius, the Roman general, the Fabian Society. Win by waiting. Take your time. And as I said earlier, they never sleep. They're determined to get their policies through. And somehow we've got to stop those policies and get back to a situation where our great institutions are focused on their primary aim. If it's the armed forces fighting for this nation, if it's the police catching criminals, preventing crime, if it's the health service making us all healthy, rather than focusing on left-wing ideology, and that's what they're doing at the moment.
Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, has flown to America for a face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, the president's Florida estate. Can he help repair the special relationship?
I think he can. He's a a great man, and I think he will. And we've got the ridiculous situation now where Nigel Farage, with a handful of MPs, is the leader for the opposition. The Tories are spent. I think the nation has got to face the fact that we've had 100 years of like 3 lots of Labour, 3 lots of Tories, 1 lot of Labour, then 3 lots of Tories, 1 lot of... And this dichotomy of this switching round, Labour, Tory, it has failed this nation, and we need to clear out the House of Parliament like Hercules cleared out the Augean stables. Sweep it out. Get rid of it all. We need new people in the House of Parliament who've got experience of life, who are committed to this country, wherever they've come from originally, but they're committed to this nation, and we can all work together.
Anna in Surrey, good morning, Mark, and good morning, Mike. Starmer is not incompetent or ill-prepared. He's choosing to disarm us and lay us open to invasion from the Islamics. He's a traitor, and I would like your wonderful guest to deal with him with a piece of rope. Wow, Anna's not pulling her punches there. Cliff says, good morning, Mark, and good morning, Mike. We need to redefine the word hate. It's far too often used to describe dislike or concern. Hate is a very strong word. I may dislike what Blair stands for, but I don't hate him. Hate is losing its meaning, like far right and racism has as well. Well, that's what the left do, Cliff. They emasculate words in order to control our thoughts. Like Mike says, your catchphrase, they don't sleep.
They never sleep. The left never sleeps, and we need to not sleep either to deal with them.
Well, listen, if anyone's awake, it's Mike Neville. Mike, do join us again soon. It's a privilege to have you in the studio. Former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector, congratulations on your US honour as well. So much more to come. Here's a voice note from Kate.
Good morning, Mark. Kate from the Wirral, just driving to Salford to referee a swimming gala. Just watching the events unfold before us, and I'm coming to the sad realisation that the more we step closer to war, the more Keir Starmer has got a legitimate ground to cancel any general election. I really, really hope this is the extremes of conspiracy theory. But I've been thinking it for a while, what would happen if we did go to war, full-on war, and he cancelled any opportunity we have to get rid of him. Plays straight into his hands. It really worries me, Mark. Have a great day. Bye.
Kate, I hope your concerns are not well-founded. I have to worry. This is a government that cancelled local elections, is trying to get rid of jury trials, is conducting a war on free speech, is about to have an Islamophobia definition, which will make it difficult for us to criticise a religion. Kate, your concerns are valid. Let's hope they don't come to pass. And what about this? A government body has said that putting up a flag in your area is a tool of hate. This is Lovely Jane.
Morning, Mark. Going back to waving the flags, didn't the whole of the Labour Party at their party conference sit there and wave flags? That was a sign of hatred. I didn't realise it at the time.
Very good point, Jane. Listen, you've absolutely drawn attention to the double standards and the hypocrisy. What about this, though? Next up, a fresh headache for the BBC as they stand accused of altering a speech by the US Defence Secretary. Could they face another White House court battle? That's next.
no doubt that the British government has acted in an incredibly weak, equivocal way. It's easy to start a war, very difficult to ensure that the aftermath doesn't descend into complete chaos.
Well, Trump doesn't mince his words. I mean, we should have realised where our national interests stood, and he should have expressed immediate support.
Do you know that we've got the cost of living coming down, that you've got interest rates coming down?
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm really happy to take both sides, but that to me...
I don't know where you get your source from, but go Google, go ChatGPT. If you've got a producer in the room, get them to do it right now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
How about this from Pete, who has messaged the show at 7:53. Good morning, Mark. Why are the Tories sitting on the opposition bench in Parliament now at the front when the leader of the opposition with the most support is Nigel Farage? Well, I do think it's a scandal, Pete, because this is a political party, a movement that accrued more votes at the last election than the Liberal Democrats, and yet they are second-class citizens within the chamber. It doesn't make sense, does it? But I suspect that they'll have the last laugh at the next election. When will that be? It was a very interesting voice note from Kate earlier. She's really worried that a war could mean that this government cancel elections. I wouldn't put it past them. They've got form on that. What I'm also really worried about, Kate, is some kind of, in inverted commas, economic emergency. We know that Rachel from Accounts is so happy about the war in Iran because then she can blame inflation and unemployment and zero growth on what's happening in the Middle East. Well, I've got to tell you, Rachel from Accounts, here on Talk Breakfast, we see you and we'll be calling out your lies because it's quite clear that it's government policy that have destroyed this particular economy that we now have. Folks, so much to get through. Let's have a look at some of your text messages. And we've got Colin, who says, good morning, Mark. I'm texting from Egypt. No troubles here yet. May I comment on our appalling actions of this bunch of jokers of a government? They're traitors. They're very, very angry about the Navy vessels and much besides. So many more messages to come. But first, I'm delighted to welcome Martin Whittock, broadcaster and one of the country's best-selling historians. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning to you.
Martin, what's your latest overview on what's happening in the Middle East?
Well, the biggest debate, as we've had from the beginning, is what is the end point of this? It was interesting that last week Hegseth said we'll finish this on America First conditions. That was last Monday of President Trump's choosing, nobody else's. So, OK, what does that mean? He also said no nation building quagmire, no democracy building exercise. Now, we understand what he's basically saying is we're not going to go in and try to build this again like we did in Afghanistan and we did in Iraq, of course. And that's fully understandable. But of course, if we're not going to have a democracy building exercise and it is only going to be done on American first conditions, it just does raise the question, what is the end game going to be? President Trump has talked about the fact that he must be involved in the choosing of the next leader in Iran. It's very difficult to see the regime for one moment agreeing to that. So clearly, many commentators hope that out of this would come a democratic Iran that would overthrow this tyrannous and murderous regime that's killed thousands of its own people. But at the moment, it's just really difficult to know, is there actually a plan that goes beyond the severe degrading of Iran? Now, obviously, removing their nuclear threat, really, really important. Removing their ballistic missile capability, really, really important. But is there more than this to the plan? It's quite interesting that we're just getting such vague statements. What is the intention that will come out of this? Just degrading them, just breaking them militarily. Now, we understand that as a factor, but is there more? And if there's more, how's that possibly going to happen? And that's my big question at the moment. I just can't see the end game. And the Americans are being very, very, if you like, ambiguous about this. So it's hard to be sure.
Is post-war chaos better than the status quo, which is an autocratic theologic regime that's developing nuclear weapons? Is anything better than that?
Well, that's a very, very good point. And obviously, you know, rock and hard place, this is where we are. The only thing I would say is that Iran has a population of 90 million. And just remember the chaos that came out of Iraq when it collapsed, you know, or after 2003, or what happened in Syria after 2011, or Libya, which has become the major conduit of undocumented migrants to Europe since 2011. The fall of a bad regime can sometimes be replaced by something that is also, you know, maybe not the threat of a nuclear war, but gives you very, very real cause for concern. I mean, this has the potential, if Iran were to collapse into civil war, and obviously we've got to assume that will happen. But if Iran were to collapse into civil war and disintegrate and become a failed state in that sense, we have the possibility of a surge of refugees and migrants, which could dwarf the kind of thing that's come out of Afghanistan and Syria and from sub-Saharan Africa through Libya so far. And we know the impact that's had upon Western countries, including the UK. So it really is a rock and a hard place on this. We need to have a middle ground where we say that the tyrannous, murderous regime with potential nuclear power must go, but chaos and civil war, that could end up with something that we really will struggle to control. And remember, of course, 20% of the world's oil comes out to the Gulf of Hormuz. So a choke point there has a real impact potentially on the world economy. So we do need an end game. I really think we do.
And Israel are all in. There's going to be a ground offensive. Will the Americans follow suit, or is that a red line for them, boots on the ground?
I mean, presumably you're talking about a ground offensive in southern Lebanon? Because clearly they're not going to be going into Iran. I think we will see no American troops on the ground at the moment. It's very, very difficult to see how that would possibly pass muster in the USA, which is very, very reluctant, understandably, after Afghanistan and Iraq, to see American troops on the ground, which is why primarily this is being run by the American Air Force, by the American Navy, using their missile capability and drone capability. So I do not think we are going to see American boots on the ground, but it is really possible. I was looking at those tanks gathering in northern Israel yesterday, armoured bulldozers as well. Looked like they're preparatory to go into southern Lebanon to take out the remaining Hezbollah strongpoints.
Martin Whittock, always a privilege. We'll catch up soon. More to come. This is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 8. Well, I have missed you hugely. It's great to be back. Mark Dolan Talk Breakfast with you today and tomorrow. In for Jezza Kyle on Tuesday and Wednesday as well. And then we're back to our regular Friday, Saturday and Sunday for the fastest growing show on UK radio and TV. 2 million digital views last weekend across 2 days. That's impossible. How did we do it? Well, because we try to talk about what matters to you. It's all about your priorities. My phone number is 0344 499 1000. And breaking this morning, the leader of Reform UK arrives in the United States for a face-to-face meeting with US President Donald Trump. So can Nigel Farage save the special relationship? Meanwhile, a top diplomat reveals the Prime Minister was told weeks ago about America and Israel's ambitions in the Middle East. But the government dragged their heels in terms of military support, whilst Germany and France stole a march on Starmer and gave Donald Trump the green light. We've got the inside story. Meanwhile, an illegal immigrant is jailed for assaulting 3 young women. When is enough enough? And another BBC scandal. Could the corporation face a second Donald Trump lawsuit as it's revealed they misrepresented yet another speech? And at 4 minutes past 8 on a Saturday morning, double Soham murderer Ian Huntley is hours away from death as his life support system is switched off. Should we bring back the death penalty? Meanwhile, a woke government body says flying the flag of the United Kingdom is, and I quote, a tool of hate. Do you agree? Is our flag hateful? 0344 499 1000. Sophia is on the phones today. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. And we are prioritising voice notes. So if you've got something on your mind, get it on the radio, get it on TV. You can hear us on DAB+, in-app and online, because the DNA of talk is in radio. But we're on TV too. This is a TV show, so if you want to watch it, I'd highly recommend you just go to YouTube, search Talk, up we pop, and as the saying goes, let's talk. And at 5 minutes past 8 in the morning, I'm delighted to welcome into the studio 2 very good friends of mine. We have Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, Conservative councillor, and Andy Williams, political commentator. Boys, welcome to the show.
Morning, Mark.
Well, Andy, Donald Trump says a lot of crazy things. I've never been a great cheerleader for the orange one, but in terms of actions, they speak louder than words. He's doing the right thing in the Middle East, isn't he?
Well, I think it's very surprising that so many people are looking at this situation in such binary terms. So let's just break it down. Is the Iranian regime an evil, disgusting regime that should have been taken out a long time ago and that has been a force for bad in the world? Absolutely. Been funding terrorism. The revolution in 1979 is probably one of the most consequential events of the 20th century, and not in a good way.
Before 79, Iran was a liberal, creative, economically productive oasis within the Middle East.
Much more so, albeit, I mean...
Women walked around without head coverings. The universities were incredibly successful.
It wasn't perfect. It was an absolute monarchy with a bit of a mad king, Shah, but fundamentally, yes, much, much better than it has been in the last 50 years. So do we want to see regimes like that taken out? Absolutely. What is challenging and problematic, and I think very concerning, is that we have an American president who, by his own definition, has gone in with absolutely no plan. And we know, and it is different to Iraq, it's a very different situation, but we know from history that if you go in to enact regime change, with absolutely no plan, you usually get a pretty bad outcome.
He's got a plan.
America spent, no, he hasn't. I'll tell you, America spent $2.5 trillion going into Afghanistan. They spent 25 years there, and they replaced the Taliban with the Taliban. And he has said in the Oval Office earlier this week, we might end up with somebody worse. Who knows? He has said what his plan is. He has said, our plan is annihilate the Navy and ensure Iran never gets hold of a nuclear weapon, both of which are noble aims. But he doesn't have an actual plan beyond carpet bombing Tehran to do that, and that is a concern.
Disarming Iran is a much better outcome than the status quo. He's the first president to stand up to this evil regime, the worst regime since the Third Reich and Adolf Hitler.
Well, we don't. The thing is, we don't know because we don't know what's going to happen next.
Wow, 8:08 in the morning. Are you going into bat for the Iranian regime?
No, you know I'm not doing that at all.
You hesitated when I called this regime the second worst since Hitler.
That wasn't what I was hesitating about. What I was hesitating, and I'd need to think about that, but it would be up there.
You don't have to think about it. I mean, do you need another coffee to think about it?
I wouldn't mind.
This is the world's biggest supporter of terrorism, sponsor of terrorism.
I know. It's an absolutely disgusting regime. My point is that America explicitly doesn't have a plan. Now, we can understand why Israel have gone in there.
This plan line of yours, right? This is a fig leaf.
It's not a plan. It's not
actually, this is your excuse to say we should not be acting in the Middle East and America and Israel should not invade.
No, I think America has... Well, I think America can do what America and will do what America wants to do. Yeah. But actually, I think they should only have gone in if they had a very clear medium and long-term plan.
You're playing
rather
games.
than we'll bomb them and see what happens.
And
that's where
Andy
we
Williams,
are.
You're playing games just like the Prime Minister as he hid behind international law. No one cares about international law.
I haven't mentioned international law once. I'm talking about whether you actually know what's going to happen next, and they don't know.
Well, the international
and actually,
law arguments...
I think you'll find, Mark, that the British people overwhelmingly will be, I think, pretty concerned by the fact that the world has been plunged into further geopolitical chaos. We're going to have a spike in inflation as a result of this, which nobody wants. And by the way, that is going to be disastrous for Trump's base, who are going to absolutely slap him around at the midterms in November, right? So it's going to be bad for us. It's going to be bad for the American people. Incidentally, Donald Trump came in, an absolute tentpole of America First was no more foreign wars, we're not going to get involved. And he said that explicitly, and J.D. Vance even more strongly, by the way. And now they're all going, oh, brilliant stuff, you know, Donald's the great leader. He's completely torn up a tentpole of America First.
Andy, you're going around the houses like a milkman here. You're struggling this morning, and I don't know if you want a timeout or something.
No.
Or phone a friend. Because I've got to tell
Not struggling at all, Mark.
that this argument about no plan is exactly the same as international law. It's an excuse not to act. And what you've got from Donald Trump, who I will always argue is not a perfect human being. Donald is no angel. I think he's a liar. I think he's a narcissist. I think he has doublespeak. He was ridiculous in his comments about Afghanistan and British troops. Yeah. He can be very, very ignorant sometimes, but actions speak louder than words. You mentioned the British public. Well, the British public have got a huge amount of common sense. And if you explain to the British public that we are disarming the most evil regimes since the Nazis, then they're on board. They are weeks away, potentially, from having a nuclear weapon. And beyond that, nothing matters.
Well, they've been weeks away from having a nuclear weapon for about 20 years, or perhaps even longer. So the question of why now is an interesting one. But
they are enriching uranium.
No, I know that. I know.
Are we giving them the Ayatollah the benefit of the doubt?
No, we're not. What we're saying
they've been doing it a long time because woke president after woke president has allowed it to happen. Biden did a deal where he sent money to the Iranians so they could build more weapons.
It's not about wokery. It's about, and sorry, I know.
It's my fault.
It's not about wokery.
But I feel really sorry for Andy this morning.
Well,
you don't need to. A really bad day.
You don't need to, and also because he's nodding, I sense that Matthew broadly agrees with me. The point is, two things can be true at the same time.
Your career,
terrible, evil regime, absolutely. Do we need a tangible plan beyond we're going to carpet bomb them in order to actually act and intervene? By the way, I know that they're going to be up there. If we were creating a league table of evil regimes, they'd probably be top. But there are plenty of other evil regimes around the world, and we're not doing anything about those.
Yes, but they don't have the criminal and military footprint of the Iranians, who also have access to the second most capacious oil reserves.
Indeed.
Gas reserves on the planet.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think, Matthew? I'm really worried about Andy this morning.
I'm not worried about Andy. Andy can hold himself up. He's fine. I might do something I've never done before. I slightly agree with what Andy's saying about having a plan. We do need to know what's next. In Venezuela, it was simple for America. Take out Maduro, the guy they'd already below. They'd had discussions about, are you ready to take over if we took out Maduro, if the opportunity arose. There is not that in Iran, right? The two most obvious candidates to take over running Iran and bringing democracy to Iran, neither of them are in the country. Both were exiled decades ago. So there is no simple solution to this. I do think we need to start asking the question of what's next. This is dragged out from being a weekend of strikes to a week of war. Is it now going to become a month of war?
An opportunity has emerged to effectively disarm Iran. And this is rare an unprecedented opportunity, which through courage and political will, the Israelis and the Americans have seen.
And that is where
history will judge
I agree.
them kindly.
And that's where I now go back to normal and disagree with Andy. The opportunity arose for Trump to do something that the world has been begging for, but no one's had the chutzpah to do. Trump saw an opportunity to take out the Ayatollah Khomeini, to give the Iranian people a level playing field to fight for freedom in Iran. That's now what we need. And we've seen it when it's been Trump doing his conferences or the press doing their press briefings saying, this is handing an opportunity to the Iranian people. We're trying to level this, but we've got to see the Iranian people now get up and fight. We've seen the Kurds in the north take arms and start fighting back. We've seen the public going out and protesting. But let's not forget, the Iranian regime are the ones who killed nearly 30,000 people for protesting on the streets this January. This is not like coming out here and protesting in London. You go and protest, you die.
The problem with what you say, Matthew, and I agree that, you know, they had an opportunity to take him out, and actually sometimes leadership is about saying, now's the time, we've just got to go and do it. However, the Iranian people, the way that Trump talks about it and says, you know, go out and take back your country, it's a lovely idea, but
they can't do that.
They're not. They don't have the means or mechanism.
That would be like telling the Germans to stand up to Hitler.
And the police over there, the IRGC, which is the police force over there, is an army. Yeah. It's not a police force like the Met where they might whack you with a baton or spray you with some pepper spray. It's an army with guns and bullets.
No, they can't. They can't. You're so right. They can't rise up, which is why it's so courageous of Israel and America to act.
No, because...
And a shame we weren't there in the first place helping.
No, because, well, two things. What Trump said is, we're going to get rid of we're going to lay out the regime, and then you're going to step into the void and rise up and take back your country. That's what he said. His plan, you've just said, he cannot achieve his plan. He cannot execute his plan, because the final plank of it is the people will rise up and go and take over, and you've just said they can't.
But that's not true. No, because I didn't say that at all. What Trump wants is he wants to decide who takes over in Iran, and I think he should. I think the US president should decide who runs Iran. Why? Because he's the man, through military might and courage and political will, has liberated the country. So yeah, he does decide.
Do you think it should be more the Americans level this playing field to try and weaken, whether it's the Iranian regime, the IRGC, whomever, to give the people the ability to overthrow well, I say government, it's a regime, it's a despotic regime. But what we've got to end up is this transitional period. I keep seeing, you know, the two candidates to take over saying, I'm now the transitional leader. Well, yeah, but you're not even in the country. We need to see this transition. We need to know what is next. At the moment, it is weakening and weakening the Iranian regime so that the people could rise up. But the problem is we're not there yet. I still think this is going to drag on for weeks and weeks. If the end goal is democracy in Iran, then I think the British public are on side of it.
Is Andy right? Is he absolutely right to point out when they had the Iraq war, there was no plan, and that led to ISIS and meltdown in the Middle East? Has he got a point? He certainly represents the majority of public opinion in this country, because I got the front page of the I newspaper. UK voters say no to joining war with Iran. Half of the public backs Keir Starmer's decision to limit UK involvement in attacks. Polling for the I paper shows. And what about this message from Big David, who says, good morning, Mark, enjoying the show. How many Iranian refugees will our government welcome? Well, that's our next conversation. This is Talk Breakfast.
no doubt that the British government has acted in an incredibly weak, equivocal way. It's easy to start a war, very difficult to ensure that the aftermath doesn't descend into complete chaos.
What's your view of that outburst of Trump?
Well, Trump doesn't mince his words, but I think his criticism is justified. I mean, we should have realised where our national interests stood, and he should have expressed immediate support.
We have pursued a ludicrous energy policy, preceding this government, frankly, and all the knock-on effects to that for our economy are catastrophic.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Mark, says Sally, will you stop your guests for saying there is no plan in the Middle East? They have no idea. Do you think that Donald Trump will be discussing what his plan is with political commentators? And this from Dan in Kent. For God's sake, America are not bothered about who takes over Iran. Its mission is to destroy the regime and nuclear threat, period. Get to more of your thoughts shortly. I think we've got a couple of voice notes coming as well. With me in the studio, Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, Conservative councillor, and Andy Williams, political commentator. Andy, there are going to be refugees coming from Iran. Should we take them?
If they are people who are genuinely at risk in Iran and genuinely their lives were endangered for whatever reason, then yes, we should. We shouldn't take people wholesale. They need to go through a process, which is what happens. There are 123 million people in the world today who've been forcibly displaced from their homes due to war, due to famine, due to other atrocities. And that's 80 million more people than 15 years ago who cannot live in their home countries. And I think we have a moral responsibility to do our fair share and take some of those people, yes.
What do you think about this, Matthew?
The problem is I do not trust that we are going to adequately vet and check who the heck these people are, because we saw when the fall of Afghanistan happened, the Taliban sent people to claim they were refugees to come through the systems and were allowed in. We've seen that, we've known that for fact because we found them afterwards. That's my frustration. The same happened when Russia invaded Ukraine. We had Russian spies come into this country and get founded out afterwards. My worry is that A, we take our fair share. Is everyone else going to take their fair share as well? It can't just be Britain. And B, what's your connection to this country? Why Britain? Why not somewhere else? We have to make sure that the people coming here are vetted and vetted properly. But if we can't do that for the people coming over on a small boat, I don't see how we're going to be able to do it in a crisis situation like this. We couldn't even get a flight off the other day as a government.
I mean, Andy, it's a worry, isn't it? My heart goes out, as you say, for people who are, you know, around the world fleeing war, fleeing persecution, and that's why refugee status exists and why it's very important going forward. The issue you got with Iran, it's effectively a terror state, and there is a risk that there will be folk who sympathise with the regime who we take under our wing. That's a national security issue, isn't it?
Well, so it is a terrorist state, but that doesn't mean that all of its people are in the same boat. Now, some of them might be. We know that, of course, there are people who sympathise with the regime. It's a population.
We have them here in the UK.
It's a population of 93 million people, and of course, I mean, we've seen them out in Tehran. You know, in favour...
Mourning the loss.
Mourning the loss of the Ayatollah.
Well, we've had it here in the UK. We've had tributes and events going on here in the UK mourning the loss of Khamenei.
We have a Daily Mail front page, terror fears over Iranian London spy cell already here.
Well, it's and I would say it's a hobby horse of the hard left to be in favour of the Iranian regime. They always have been. Look at some of the things. Jeremy Corbyn, exactly. Jeremy Corbyn was, you know, he was welcoming it at the time, 4 years before he entered Parliament. So,
you're right. It's a thing that they can do. It's their version of a flag, because like when everything kicked off between Hamas and Israel, suddenly Amazon sales of, is it the kufka or whatever, the black and white scarf thingy, everyone's suddenly buying one and everyone's suddenly wearing it around the street. Sorry, you didn't care about this until it became an opportunity, and that's the same what's happening right now. We've got people in this country jumping on this opportunity to say, actually, another way to stick it to Israel, another way to stick it to America.
Let's take a voice note from Jackie.
Morning, Mark. Jackie from Oldham. Why haven't the Conservatives called for a vote of no confidence in this government? How bad does it have to get before Parliament actually do something to stop this destructive government in its tracks?
And what about this from Trish?
Morning, Mark. Trish in Cornwall. Do you remember that Madness song, Embarrassment? I had an irresistible urge to listen to it yesterday and came away with this reimagined snippet that's now on repeat in my head. Starmer, you're an embarrassment. Kind of sums it up, doesn't it? Cheers now.
What do you make, Trish? Thank you for that. And by the way, a bit of welcome music in the morning. What do you make of Trish's voice note there, Andy? The politics of this. The Prime Minister has not covered himself in glory in his handling of this whole situation in Iran, has he?
I think overall he's done a very good job in difficult circumstances, as usual.
Sorry, run that by me again.
I'm not.
Is it April the 1st?
I'm not remotely in a few weeks. I'm not remotely surprised that that a number of people on the right who call themselves the patriots of this country are absolutely.
Is that a dig at me?
I didn't say the far right. Are absolutely delighted that the President of the United States, so somebody from a different country, is trying to publicly shame and embarrass our country. I don't think that is patriotic. Starmer has, in the face of, by the way, cabinet opposition, we know that people like Ed Miliband were trying to make life much more difficult for him and stop us getting involved at all. Actually, we're doing exactly what we should be doing, which is we're defending our bases. We're not getting involved in proactive strikes because we don't agree that now is the right time. We don't believe there's a plan.
Do we think Iran should have nuclear weapons?
No,
we're helping.
No.
If the Prime Minister didn't allow the use of those air bases at the start of the war,
which he did,
then he's actually helping the Iranian regime, isn't he?
Correct, but he did. He did allow that to happen. And we are defending our bases in places like Cyprus. And
in 2 weeks' time, when the destroyer arrives.
But that is a different question. So the destroyer, I think that is really interesting. The destroyer, HMS, is it Dragon?
Lost track.
That was
HMS not in repair shop.
Let me tell you, it's not breathing fire anymore.
Oh, well, I can tell you, covered in scaffolding, right?
Yeah, because it's going to take a week to arm up still.
And why is that? It's because of decades of underinvestment in our military.
It's also, hold on. It's also because America said a month ago that they were moving an armada to the Middle East. Why didn't anybody in the British government go, do you know what, maybe we should start getting ready? Why didn't we get ready weeks ago?
Because
when
they didn't want
saying
to be
it all over the
their
world.
own backbenchers, and maybe British Muslims who Labour's relying on for the electoral support of.
Oh yes, that by-election that went so well.
Didn't want to be seen to be helping in the effort against Iran.
Oh, look, absolutely, it's the case that a lot of backbenchers on the left of the Labour Party don't want to be involved, don't like war. I know that. That's classic left of the Labour Party, and my thoughts on those people are on the record.
Yeah.
But this, the fact that it's taking so long for this ship to get to where it needs to be is because of decades of underinvestment in our military.
You're right about that. And I will say that I'm not going to blame this Labour government at all for our hollowed out military. They've only been in power for 18 months.
Right.
You cannot hollow out a military that quickly, even if you try. And it began in 2010, and in fact probably goes back slightly before then as well.
Agreed.
So it's a disgrace. I mean, I think military budgets went down about 25% in the coalition years. And I was all for living within our means, but not at the expense of our national security.
And meanwhile, in the spring statement this week, Rachel, buried in the small print is the fact that our welfare bill is due to go up to £400 million a year by the end of the decade, and we can't invest properly in our military.
So none of that is wrong. You're absolutely right. But what about the politics of this? Starmer, this was an open goal for him to say, use the UK air bases. This is not an intervention, not at the beginning.
It took
significantly.
and serious negotiating.
In the process, America needed our help. We were not there for them. And Trump won't forget that. He has the memory of an elephant.
Well, he has the memory of an elephant.
Quite a trunk as well.
But he has the temperament of somebody who U-turns more frequently than Keir Starmer. So we shouldn't read too much into Trump publicly criticising Starmer in the UK government, because he does this with everyone. I mean, his own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, he used to call Little Marco, him and J.D. Vance said Trump was America's Hitler a few years before he became vice president. So let's not read too much into the most capricious man in the world.
He's been outmanoeuvred by people who ideologically you probably do dovetail with, which is, for example, the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, and the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, both of whom have absolutely given the green light to what America are doing in the Middle East. They've shown leadership, and Donald Trump is like, Germany and France are our friends. The United Kingdom is not.
Keir Starmer was, so two things. Number one, he was held back from making a decision as quickly as he might have liked to by members of his cabinet. And we know that because of a brilliant piece of reporting by Tim Shipman in The Spectator this week. Secondly, I think we should be pleased and welcome the fact that we have a Prime Minister who's not going headlong into getting involved in a war before he knows the facts. And I think, actually, it's been really interesting to watch Kemi Badenoch flailing. She needs to go and lock herself in a room with some defence and security experts for the next week and swat up, because she's put in a very embarrassing performance over the last few days. And of course, Farage will just say, let's do exactly what Donald does, because Farage loves Donald. And if you're worried about
I love Donald too, because I love whoever is president.
If you're worried about having a government that's going to be, America's poodle, as Blair was called when he was Prime Minister, if you want America's poodle, vote Reform, because, my God, we're going to be supplicant to them.
Well, the point is we are America's poodle.
We are. One more thing. Well, look, they're the most... the reality is they are the most powerful country in the world still, certainly the most powerful country in the West, so we have to deal with that. But the Tories' stated policy is we should just do whatever America says. That is nuts.
No, just allow the use of UK air bases, which is the most minimal thing that we can offer the Americans.
But that's what we're doing.
But you won't
acknowledge.
You won't acknowledge. You don't acknowledge that Starmer has eviscerated the special relationship.
He hasn't eviscerated
and scored a political own goal. He's a man of resolutely poor judgment. It's been revealed by Sky News of all outlets, who are hardly bastions of conservatism, that diplomats warned the government
Sky News?
Who
started Sky News? Andrew Neil and Rupert Murdoch.
I know, and then they lost their way. Since Rupert, can I say that the only good networks are the ones that Rupert Murdoch still owns? Just my opinion.
But the point is that diplomats warned the British government weeks ago of the Americans' intentions, right? It was, I'm sorry as well, you didn't need a diplomat to tap you on the shoulder and say, oh, by the way, I think we need to move some military hardware over to the Middle East. You could see it on Truth. You could see it on Trump's social media. He said, we are moving an armada to the Middle East. Negotiations are in a final stage. It's now or never. We should have picked up on that. It's not rocket science. And just to hit back slightly on the criticism about the Conservatives, I completely agree. I'm disappointed and shocked to see the state and poor state of our military that we're in. But it is not the Conservatives' fault for the decision not to send a destroyer and wait until the other day that it's now going to take 2 weeks. The Conservatives were not in power 2 weeks ago. Labour have been in power for 18 months. This whole situation, it's down to the Labour government to say, actually, we're going to send a destroyer. You can't blame the Tories for everything in the past. I appreciate things were not great, but you can't blame us for everything. This is a mess on Keir Starmer's doorstep. It's
partly an operational decision as well, right? So we should be thinking about the Army and the Navy and the heads of those organisations who are actually the experts here.
Yeah, and if it's going to take 2 weeks to get a destroyer ready for battle, we should have started that. Guess what? 2 weeks ago.
It would have got there more quickly if it wasn't covered in scaffolding, though.
Right.
Well, it's got to arm up one way or another. The point is it's in repairs. But the fact is we knew this was coming. Trump said on Truth Social and social media months ago that he was sending an armada to the Middle East. We should have started then. Why the heck didn't we?
If we'd continued to invest in our armed forces and in our military, as we should have done over the last 15 years, then we would have been in a position where we could have hit the go button straight away, rather than have to
Okay, I agree. Take all of that.
Disagree.
But why did we not make the air bases available from day one? I got an interesting message from Leon about this. Good morning, Mark and boys. A question needs to be asked: did Starmer purposefully hold the deployment of defence to the Middle East because of the by-election? Why did the Prime Minister speak to British Muslims in Parliament this week, saying, just so you can be absolutely clear, we did not support the airstrikes on Iran? Why did he say that to British Muslims?
Because he doesn't support the airstrikes. He said that in Parliament.
I'd be embarrassed to say that, because Iran is an evil regime that kills its own people, murders a young woman for not wearing a hijab correctly on her head.
But
But apparently he's one of the good guys.
No, that's not what he said.
Make it make sense.
You know as well as I do that what he
Why
what
did he
he's
feel
not
the
saying
need to
is
tell that community that Britain did not participate in the early stages of this war? Why was that even a speech?
What
motivated it?
I genuinely don't understand the premise of your question.
Placating the position of many British Muslims, which is not to attack Iran.
Well, they're part of the electorate, and he's a politician.
Placating, and that's the electorate that he's focused on. It's the same Prime Minister who forgot to wear the poppy when doing a video addressing British Muslims in the run-up to Remembrance Weekend, even though he'd been wearing a poppy that whole same day. He's a traitor to this country.
Oh, come on, Mark, that is shocking. Like
why would the Prime Minister make a speech going, I want you all to know that we did not support the initial action in Iran?
He doesn't support the initial action. He said that in Parliament. It's on the record.
Yeah, and why has he said it? Who's the audience for on that one?
You hold up the... No.
You nearly said the true bit out loud.
No, you held up the copy of the Eye.
Vote.
Well, look at on the front of the Eye today. UK voters say no to joining the war. It's what the majority
How many people were polled? I don't remember.
Oh, for goodness sake, don't go down the polling route, Matthew.
Oh, hold on. So polls are perfectly accurate all the time when they support what you say.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
But the available evidence we have is a poll by I don't know which company it is.
No, you've got to believe the polls. I think we have to debate in good faith, and I'll accept that poll. No problem at all. But the point is, I think it was very, very clear on Starmer's point that for this audience of British Muslims, he wanted them to know that we were not doing our bit to remove this evil Islamic regime. Why? Doesn't fit the narrative. Because too many British Muslims don't want this war, which reflects a big problem in our country. Because I'm worried about any Brit that doesn't want...
But this is my point. The vast majority of the entire British public don't want this war. It's nothing about British Muslims.
Not the vast majority. It's not the vast majority if you look at the poll. The vast majority...
Vast plurality, then.
Right, there we go. Getting down the really technical linguistic stage to try and make an argument.
It's all about opinions, and I'm loving both of your opinions. Before we go, lads, can I quickly ask you, only got a few seconds, don't want to get in trouble with the boss, but Sun newspaper, Flag Fury... flying the Union flag on lampposts is branded a tool of hate.
Oh, gosh.
In a leaked cohesion
Right, cover it
review.
up. Just...
So, flying English, Scottish and Union flags on streets has been linked to tools of hate in a leaked draft of the government's new social cohesion strategy. Is the flag, Matthew, is it a tool of hate?
No, it's not. It's a tool of our country. It's a symbol of our Great Britain, the pride that our country can be. For the last, I don't know, however many months I've worn our flag proud whenever being on this show. I think it's ridiculous. I think actually, so the council next door to where I am, the leader got into crazy sort of arguments when the Raise the Colours started, claiming that everybody who was getting involved with the Raise the Flags was, thuggish, far right, jumping on all these sorts of things. I'm like, sorry. People are proud of our country, and the argument about putting flags on lampposts is ridiculous. People should be able to raise the colours if they want. My personal opinion is, if you can't do it on things like lampposts, well, I'll tell you not. Go and buy a flagpole and you can put it up in your garden.
Have the far right, though, not deployed the flag for their own evil ends?
No. So the point is that the far right, the whole argument with this...
Actual racists.
Fine.
And actual fascists.
The argument with this is that you cannot fly the flag because it has been hijacked by the far right. Well, if anything, I say no. I say if the majority of the public take the flag and say, no, we're not going to let it be a symbol of the far right, it's our symbol, then actually that kills the argument. If we pander and say, right, no one can fly the flag or fly the colours because of the minority, then surely that's actually the problem.
Andy, I've been told that you're wearing Union Jack underpants this morning.
How did you know?
There's an X-ray machine here at Talk.
Jeez.
I agree with Matthew's last point, which is that you
can't pander to the tiny group,
and you should continue to do it in appropriate places on buildings, etc., etc.
Correct.
The thing is, this is a non-story because actually you only have to get to paragraph 2, sentence 2 of the Sun story, so that it didn't say that the Union Jack is a tool of hate. It says, quote unquote, the extreme right has tried to turn symbols of pride into tools of hate, which is true.
And we're not going to allow it to happen.
Right,
the fact is that we should not hide or choose not to wear or show the flag because of the minority.
Correct. So
right?
this is
That's the fact. We should wear it, we should fly it, we should be proud of it, and not let anyone of any flag say otherwise.
Correct. So this is a non-story, and it's disingenuous of The Sun and Martina Bett, who wrote it.
Even though many people on the left do see the flag as troubling, triggering, problematic.
Well, it was only a couple of years ago. Labour wouldn't have it on their leaflets until the last election.
It's not many people on the left.
Well, it's
a handful of people on the far
Emily
left.
Thornbury, a previous
that was the
Labour cabinet
St
minister.
George's. That was the St George's flag.
Yeah, English flag, and she sneered at it.
Yes, she did. She shouldn't have done. She was wrong, and she apologised.
There you go. And on that note, boys, always a treat.
Thank you.
And a great diversity of opinion. It's what we're all about here. Thank you to Andy Williams, political commentator and broadcaster, and Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, Conservative councillor with his own YouTube channel.
Yes, Matthew's Blueprint for Britain.
There you go. Well, listen, it'll be worth a watch. Talks a lot of sense. Boys, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Much more to come. Is flying the flag of this country a tool of hate? That's next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. It's 8:40. Lovely to have your company. I'll be dealing with Sir Keir Starmer in no uncertain terms in today's Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m. Sir Michael Fabricant is my star guest after 9, and the brilliant Steve Denyer from Virgin Radio, who's going to join us with a very, very special year as part of our Retro Rewind. The front pages of today's papers: Daily Mail, terror fears over Iranian London spy cell, and iWeekend, UK voters say no to joining war with Iran. Alan is in Salford. Alan, we've got a developing story, and it's the fact that double murderer Ian Huntley is expected to die within hours. His life support has been switched off. Should he have been hanged in the first place?
Yes, without doubt. I've been thinking for years hanging should be brought back, and it should be on a referendum. And people, when they take the referendum, it should be binding in law. It's ridiculous. We've got the best forensics now than we've ever had, and we can find out who actually done these things now, not like the old days. And some of the fallacies of the stopping the hanging, especially when they killed that woman. What was her name? I forget her name now. The only woman to be hung.
The last woman to be hanged was Pankhurst, wasn't it?
No.
She granted the franchise to women. I do get my women mixed up.
No.
Myra Hindley.
She shot. No, she went to prison. Boyfriend.
Yes, Ellis.
She shot
Ellis.
a boyfriend six times.
Was it Ruth Ellis?
Ruth Ellis, that's the one.
So, by the way, Alan, you don't want me on your pub quiz, do you?
No, you don't. Ruth Ellis. Yeah, she didn't just shoot him in the frenzy. She shot him 6 times. She emptied the gun on him. So I'm afraid she should have been hung anyway. But they all, they're crying about it and the rest of it. Also, I would bring into hanging terrorism actually being planned, and they're catching them before they do it. They should be hung. Not these people who say blow up England and the rest of it, not like Lucy Conley, what happened to her 36 months. I'm talking about people who are actively trying to blow up this country, you know, these terrorists. They should be hung.
Alan, I think it's a brilliant point. And by the way, what would the capital punishment look like? Would you go lethal injection or would you bring back the noose?
It's too easy for them, I'm afraid. That's what I don't like about Americans now. They've gone soft. It should be like Mike, what do you call it, Neville said. It should be put the hood on. You know, that's it then.
Alan, briefly, Alan, the majority of the public, when polled, support the return of capital punishment. And I love your idea about actually the capital punishment, the death sentence for those preparing terror. It's a great idea. I'm on board with that. Why do you think the political establishment always vote against it?
It's just the blob again, isn't it? You know, it's just these lefty liberals. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what can I make one point about Fabian? What was his name? He was involved with the Chagos.
Oh yes,
Well,
yes.
He's got a wonderful name, the Fabian Society. If you look it up, they're actually communists. They say they want social justice, but they mean social justice all over the world. It's globalism in it. And their motto and their flag. You know what the motto and the flag is of the Fabian Society, Mark?
Go on.
It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. You look it up. It's there. That's their flag. A wolf in sheep's clothing. It tells you everything about them.
Damning. Alan, it is a real worry, I've got to say, and it would explain why we have so many problems in this country. Alan, call me again soon. Really enjoyed your calls. I'm going to be taking a ton of calls after the next break. But what about this, another developing story? The BBC are now open to replacing the licence fee with general taxation. Now, that's a problem, isn't it? Because at the moment, you can choose whether or not to pay the licence fee based upon whether you're using a television and watching BBC services. Well, if it was general taxation, you have to pay for it even if you don't watch it. Let's get reaction now from Callum McGoldrick, who is the investigations campaign manager at the Taxpayers Alliance. Good morning, Callum.
Hi, good morning, Mark, and thank you very much for having me on.
Well, listen, what do you make of the BBC open now to the idea of general taxation? The reason being that thousands of people every year don't pay the licence fee and that number grows.
Well, I think it's sort of evidence that the BBC are quite worried that many people are turning away from their services, quite simply because they don't offer a good enough product. You can use Netflix, you can use Amazon Prime, you can use Disney Plus without having to pay the licence fee. And quite often, more people find that they provide better content for them.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly right. What would the implications be for the taxpayer if the licence fee went and it came from general taxation?
Well, this would be sort of more in line with how Germany does it, which is just a general tax of about €17 a month. I think for general taxpayers here, though, is that we're looking at a record high tax burden already. We're looking at council bills going up. We're looking at other taxes going up from the government, and it's just another thing that would make many people find their bills unaffordable.
Well, yes, because Callum, I mean, you know, you've been crunching the numbers. I think that the overall income of the BBC is around £5.5 billion a year. A good 2.5, 3 billion of that is the licence fee. So 3.5 billion would have to come from the Treasury if we didn't have it.
Well, yeah, or they could move to a subscription model where if people want to use the service, then they can. I think the BBC seem to be quite confident that they provide an excellent value service, so they should be able to compete on a private market.
Yeah, that's wishful thinking, isn't it? Because if it went to subscription, they wouldn't get close to 3.5 billion.
Oh, well, not with the content they put out now. I think they'd have to stop sort of mistranslating and misediting world leaders as well to provide an actual accurate news service too.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's another big story which is exploding as we speak. The BBC stands accused of changing or altering a speech. So let's give you the story here. The BBC mistakenly altered a speech by Pete Hesketh, who, of course, is the defense secretary in the Trump administration. The speech was about the war in Iran, making it appear that he said the American forces were targeting the Iranian people. In fact, he said regime. They translated that to people. Well, that's a very different interpretation, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm not too sure why they have to translate anything he says, given that he speaks English and so do the BBC. So just playing what he says word for word would be good enough. But then we saw them spice up what Donald Trump said as well to quite clearly mischaracterize what he said.
Indeed. Well, I think this went out on some of the BBC's international services, hence the translation. But it's curious, isn't it, how what appears to be an accident, a mistake by way of translation, is one which is negative to the West, negative to America, negative to Donald Trump. Here we go again.
Yeah, and we've seen BBC Arabic, for example, quite often change what pro-Israeli people say or change what pro-Palestinian people say to make it seem more palatable when it's then brought back into English translations. And I think it's just something else that shows that the BBC is not fit for purpose anymore.
Callum, this licence fee is going up to 180 quid in April, which is an enormous, huge amount of money. The licence fee is dying, isn't it? It's not going to survive the next 10 years.
Well, we know that 80% of households in Britain pay it, so that's about 23 million, and fewer are paying it each year, quite simply because they don't find the BBC to be worth it anymore. And I think the longer that the BBC is thinking that, oh, we'll be fine because we're the BBC, the longer we'll find that actually more people will stop paying it.
So how would you fix it, Callum?
I would make it compete on a private market. I'd say you can't tax people anymore. If you think your service is so good, go and compete in the same way that everyone else has to.
Yeah, and good luck paying all that top dollar to middle managers and stars who wouldn't get the kind of money that they're on at the BBC in the private sector. Callum, you're worth the money. Thank you so much for joining us. A really interesting conversation. Have a great Saturday. Callum McGoldrick is the investigations campaign manager at the Taxpayers Alliance. Is flying the flag of this country a tool of hate? Your call's next.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. So many calls coming through. Good morning, Mark. This is Darren, who describes himself as a skint market trader from Suffolk. Darren, I salute your work. I love our markets, and it's so easy, it's so difficult, isn't it? With the cost of trading these days, it's a very, very hard existence. And my heart goes out to you there. The supermarkets are taking so much work from the markets. And he says the following: tell that buffoon Andy Williams it was the Lefty Eye newspaper who did the poll, and the poll was taken just by Muslims, I reckon, because us real Brits want all terrorists blown into oblivion. There you go. Not pulling his punches, Darren. This from Vince. Good morning, Mark. Blair never invested in the armed forces in the first Gulf War. He sent them to war with no ammo or bulletproof vests. So the lack of investment goes back to Blair and Brown. They have the true, let's have the truth out. Plus, the Navy has gone from 250 ships in the 1950s to 16 under this government. And Katie, regarding the flying of the flag, a woke government department have said that flying the flag of this country is a tool of hatred. You couldn't make it up, could you? What a clown world we are in. Well, Katie says regarding the flying of the flag, it's exactly as Ricky Gervais once said, just because you're offended does not mean you are right. Agree with every word. Tom is in Reigate. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Mark.
Listen, you sound in full voice this morning. Tom, what's on your mind?
I'm fed up with this bloody starmer, mate, in this country. We should put the army and expand our army to 500,000 soldiers. Because if not, we're going to be run over, taken over, and everything by all these terrorists and Muslims.
Well, it is a real worry, isn't it? Tom, what do you make of the... Trump. What do you think of the idea of taking Iranian refugees into this country?
Oh, it's ideal, isn't it? Then they can all kill us, can't they? That's a good idea. That is a Starmer and David no-brains Lammy, isn't it?
It's devastating.
Absolutely useless, mate. A whole lot of them need to go now.
What do you make of Donald Trump's actions in the Middle East? Because some people, Tom, say he's got no plan.
He has got a plan, mate, but at the end of the day, the plan is he's told to people that he will help them. He's trying to get rid of the old terrorists who are run by, they all run the Houthis, Hamas and all of them, and now they're blowing up Bahrain and attacking all the other Arab states to try and entice them into the war. It's wrong, mate, it's wrong. They're just trying to ruin the economy of all the Arab countries to make trouble.
And what did you... Yeah, go on.
No, anyone who's got a sensible bone about it. We don't want no trouble. We've welcomed people to this country for 100 years, mate, or more. And we let everyone here and just integrate, speak the language. If you go and live in Spain, you learn the language, or Italy, you integrate better. If you don't, you're separated, mate, and then division comes in and trouble.
And Tom, do you think the country can be saved? Can we fix this?
I don't think so, mate, because I don't think Reform are going to get in. They're going to let that silly boy Polanski get in, mate. He's going to go into bed with Labour and they'll storm it.
Tom, devastating thoughts. By the way, just briefly, Nigel Farage has flown to America. He's going to have a face-to-face with Donald Trump. What should he say, Tom?
I'm standing with you shoulder to shoulder, like Blair apparently did with Bush years ago. But at the end of the day, mate, you can't let it run into chaos. Let the people have some leaders, or let some of the sensible leaders that are there take the country over. It's got loads of oil and gas. It's got a good opportunity for the innocent Iranian people, mate, to take over, mate. And then they can run their country and be prosperous instead of being poverty-stricken and blooming having dictated to what they do by other people. We should all be able to do what we want to do, mate. It's a free world and a free country.
Tom, well, I love your call. Can I ask you what your plans are for the day? What's happening in your world today?
I'm a 70-year-old man, mate, driving an HGV lorry 6 days a week or 70 hours a week, mate, because I can't afford to retire because you can't get the money to live. Too dear, mate.
You are 70 years of age. You should be retired 5 years now, and you're still working, and you're doing a 70-hour week in an HGV.
Yeah, I am indeed, mate, or 60 hours every other week. I've got a lovely wife to look after, 3 children, which have got not with me now, they're all left and grown up.
Yeah.
And 7 grandchildren, mate, and they've got to be looked after.
Let me tell you, Tom, that your wife is a very lucky lady, and she's won the lottery of life because you are a patriot, you're hardworking, you're a hero, and you talk a lot of sense. Tom in Reigate gets it, right? Keir Starmer doesn't get it. Those who govern us do not. Tom, please call me again soon. Calling us, I think, from the cab of his HGV. 70 years of age, can't afford to retire. This is a guy that no doubt has put more in than he's taken out from this country. Unfortunately, now there's nearly 10 million people who are swinging the lead. active adults not contributing to the economy. Tom should have his feet up. He should be on a desert island, and yet there he is, out grafting every day. Tom, thank you for that. We salute you. This programme is here for you and everyone of your ilk. Pete is in Bath, in beautiful West England. Top of the morning, Pete.
Good morning, Mark.
Language there.
Sorry.
I understand your anger towards this man, and you're entitled, but obviously we've got kids listening. But yeah, I will take your point, Pete. So Ian Huntley, double murderer, is going to die in the next few hours. He may die whilst we're on air, and that's because he's in a vegetative state. They've switched off his life support. What do you think?
I think it's brilliant, but what they should have done was then he was given the if he'd been given a death sentence, they should have jailed him for a year and told him what date and what time he was going to die. And I would have told him he was going to die on the date that he killed them girls. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that either. But that is what I would have done. I'd have given him a year to think about it, and then I would have definitely hung him. If they wanted somebody to do it, I would have willingly done it.
Peter, I don't disagree with the word you said. Apologies for Peter's choice language, but Peter is angry about two little girls snatched from their family, gone forever. It's a great tragedy. So, Pete, I back you up. Let's take a voice note now on the war in Iran. This is Big Michael.
Morning, Mark. I was listening to your two guests debating the poll that was made about how the majority of people didn't want a war. Well, let's just put this into perspective. If you ask 100 people, do you want a war? Most people will say, no, we don't. It's all down to the question. Were these people asked, are you happy that Iran has nuclear weapons that they may threaten us with? Then you might come across a different answer. Have a good morning.
Common sense, Michael. Thank you for that. Loving your calls, loving the voice notes, loving the texts as well. So much more to come. Next up, I'll be dealing with Keir Starmer in no uncertain terms in Dolan's dispatch. Talk breakfast, 8:59. We've got work to do. Get the kettle on. I'll see you in 2.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 9. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. I have missed you hugely. Mark Dolan on Talk Breakfast with you today and tomorrow, 6 till 10 a.m. And I'm looking after weekday breakfast on Tuesday and Wednesday in for the brilliant Jeremy Kyle. Do join me then. And then we're back to Friday, Saturday and Sunday as of next week. So much to get through. Breaking this morning, the leader of Reform UK arrives in the United States for a face-to-face meeting with US President Donald Trump. So can Nigel Farage save the special relationship? Is he a Prime Minister in waiting? A top diplomat reveals the Prime Minister was told weeks ago about America and Israel's plans in the Middle East, but the government dragged their heels in deploying military support. We've got the inside story. Meanwhile, an illegal immigrant is jailed for assaulting 3 young women. When is enough enough? And could the BBC be facing a second Donald Trump lawsuit as it's revealed they misrepresented yet another speech? Meanwhile, Ian Huntley, the Soham double murderer, is hours away from death as his life support system is switched off. Should we bring back the death penalty? Meanwhile, a woke government body says flying the flag of the United Kingdom is a tool of hate. You heard me right. What useful tool came up with that? A tool of hate. Has the world gone mad? Let me know. Do you agree? Is our flag hateful? Delighted to say that Safira has just produced an excellent cup of tea in an official Talk mug. You get the kettle on because we've got a busy hour to come. It's all about your opinions, though. Let me know your thoughts. A range across of issues. Is Keir Starmer a threat to our national security? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Leave me a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. And we kick off, as always, at this time in the show, 9:05 every Friday, Saturday and Sunday with Dolan's Dispatch. Now, you know there is no love lost between myself and the Prime Minister. But some people tell me that, yes, he's struggling in the job. He's out of his depth. He's having a nightmare. His administration is a car crash in slow motion. But they say that ultimately and fundamentally, Keir Starmer is a decent man whose heart is in the right place. Well, I'm so sorry. I beg to differ. I judge people by their actions, and I consider Sir Keir Starmer to be a dishonest, disingenuous and dangerous man. I believe that he's not just incompetent, he is a threat to our national security. Because if you destroy the economy with a workers' rights package which produces unemployment, and if you have economic policies such as inflation-busting pay rises in the public sector, then you're going to kill growth. You're going to make the cost of living even worse, and you are going to fuel the fire of unemployment. All of that has happened on the watch of this supposedly decent man who's doing his best, Sir Keir Starmer. Ultimately, if you destroy the economy, you are destroying national security. And we know financially the cupboard's bare. We got no money to defend ourselves and to help our allies overseas. You've got net zero. And the Prime Minister is all in on our unilateral economic disarmament, the deindustrialization of this country as a result of the madness of net zero, which is quite clearly communism in a green rosette. Now, Sir Keir Starmer is someone who knowingly indulges in Orwellian doublespeak. growing the economy by shrinking it, smashing the gangs by helping their business model, fixing the foundations of the economy by smashing it to pieces. The party of working people that's putting people out of work. Securing our energy supply by pouring concrete into our oil wells and shuttering them for good. And now he destroys our relationship with the United States. Yes, we are America's poodle, and we have been for decades because we don't have the economic and military might. America is the big brother, and yes, if America says jump, then we've got to say how high. And what does Starmer do? Such an open goal, such an opportunity. The president says, can I use UK air bases? Because I'm going to take down the worst regime since the Third Reich, because that's what Iran is. They are the biggest sponsors of terror on the planet, and they are weeks, if not months away. I don't care how long, it's coming. They are using the uranium, depleted uranium, all that stuff. They're trying to make nuclear weapons. And Starmer does not want to do his bit to help bring down that regime, a regime which kills upwards of 40,000 of its own people for protesting the regime. A regime which kills a young woman for not wearing a hijab on her head correctly. A regime which has killed millions since it took power in the 1980s. And Starmer doesn't want to help bring them down. And yet apparently he's a decent guy who's doing his best to make it make sense. Now, Trump's not happy. Trump has said that he's very disappointed in the Prime Minister's actions. And of course now, yet another U-turn. Suddenly Starmer's like, oh, actually, you can use the oil or the bases. You can use the bases now. Starmer refused requests to deploy bombers from Diego Garcia and RAF Fairford. Now he's offering his full support. What a fool. And how significant that Starmer should address British Muslims in Parliament this week, being love-bombed by some kind of diplomatic figure in relation to the UK and Palestine, who's whispering in the Prime Minister's ear going, well done, Prime Minister, thank you for your support. And he makes a speech telling this audience of British Muslims that Britain did not participate in the initial action against Iran. How dare he be so proud of that? And why is he doing it? He's playing to that individual audience. Now, we're told that the spineless Prime Minister wanted to allow America to use those air bases, but he was backed down, forced into a position by a cabinet revolt led by Ed Miliband and Rachel Reeves and Yvette Cooper. You couldn't make it up. This country is going to hell on a handcart. Meanwhile, Canada's Mark Carney and Australia's Anthony Albanese, a pair of big woke lefties themselves, all in with America's actions in the Middle East. Germany, all in. France, all in. And from Britain, nothing. We've turned our backs on our number one economic, politically, diplomatic ally. The whole thing is a hot mess. It is a shambles. And it was very significant when the president said that the special relationship is not what it was. And he said in regard to Sir Keir Starmer, this is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with. Well, he's absolutely right about that. Some people have said that Starmer is more like Neville Chamberlain. That's an insult to Neville Chamberlain. Keir Starmer's not Neville Chamberlain. He's more Gary Neville than Neville Chamberlain. And this Prime Minister needs to receive the red card. Your reaction, is Starmer a threat to our national security? Elliot is in Bushy. Good morning, Elliot.
Good morning. Yes, he's rotten, he's stupid, he's got no understanding. He doesn't want to understand. Yes, he's a threat to national security. So is all his front bench. And this isn't just him. This goes back years to Cameron, to all the previous governments. Do you know, Mark, we spend double, I think it's something like 100 million on welfare and exactly half on our defence of this country. It's a disgrace.
So defence is about, I can give you the numbers, Elliot. Defence is about 60 billion and welfare is just short of 500 billion.
We must be mad. You know, the only way you get on in this country now is if you don't speak the language, if you can't integrate, you must be transgender, and if you hate our culture and heritage, then you get right to the top of a housing list free. It's absolutely appalling. Our culture, our values, we've been thrown to the walls. These people loathe you, they loathe me, and they loathe our historical traditions. It's an absolute disgrace. And as I say, you know, this business, we must negotiate, de-escalate. The fool, Starmer, where's he been? We've been speaking to these Iranian lunatics for 40
You can't
years.
negotiate with terrorists. That is a direct quote from Margaret Thatcher, who had access to a big military and who won the Falklands War with a flotilla of ships.
Yeah, well, we can't do that
We
now.
were strong in 83, Elliot.
Yeah, I remember it. We can't do it now.
And Thatcher was brave.
The fact is, this country is finished. I'm telling you, it's terrible. Do you know, I live just south of Watford. Apparently, they've arrested a whole load of Iranians in Watford and Harrow, not far from where I live. It's in the papers. It's all over the news. And they have threatened to go on, I think it's the Jewish day, the Sabbath today, and kill Jews at synagogues. And Starmer says he wants to protect the community. His wife, I believe, is Jewish. Where is he? What a fool.
Elliot, what a brilliant call. I wish we had longer. And you're absolutely right to draw attention to that story. Daily Mail, terror fears over Iranian London spy cell. 4 held by police for allegedly spying on multiple synagogues in North London and beyond. And yet this Prime Minister is happy to tell an audience of British Muslims that he had no part in the efforts to bring down this evil regime. History will judge this man very harshly. Stephen is in the capital. Good morning, Stephen.
Morning, Mark. It's nice to speak to you. Just give me a minute, mate, and I'll explain exactly what I'm calling. I went for a haircut last night in a Kurdish hairdresser's.
Right.
Okay. Now, I'm of true belief that not everyone's the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, these lads fled Iraq, northern Iraq, on the borders of Iran. They fled because their wives were being killed, their children were being killed. They told me that they've never, ever supported Israel, but they love Israel. The Kurdish people are with Israel. Now, you've never heard such a thing from a Muslim country.
Yeah.
We know that, you know. Secondly, they're going to bring out a czar for anti-Muslim, mate. Now, I've been told by these Kurds that this country, these boys are older than me, I'm 50, all right? I very smallly remember 1979.
Yeah.
But they remember it greatly. Now, the woke left tied up with the Islamic fanatical side. They took over Iran, as we know. Exactly the same process is being done in this country, they tell me. Exactly the same process, where the governments are bending over for Islamic fanatics. And after that, well, you know what happened next? Let's hope they don't lose their heads. I don't call for violence, but this country, mate, I'm speaking to everyone my age. Now, we're a generation where we grew up properly, you know. I don't think this is very bad, Mark.
What do you, Stephen, what do you make of a Prime Minister that tells an audience this week of British Muslims that he proudly did not support the initial strikes on Iran? How can he defend facilitating a regime that kills its own people and is trying to create nuclear weapons?
Okay, so look at him. When he reads a speech, he's reading off something that's been given to him. You have to ask yourself, who gave him it? Who gave him those, you know? Now, there's a bit of a theory out there that he's being run by fanatical puppets, just like the Green Party. The left have been infiltrated. We truly believe that in Britain. You know, the true British patriots. I'm not a racist, mate. My wife's Polish.
Yep.
She came here, she assimilated, she learned the language,
yep.
She paid her tax. It's disgraceful. Now, I've been thinking, is there a possibility that the people can take a government to court? Now, I've got quite a following, my friend, on Instagram. I believe that if we can raise the funds, we can take this government to court for failing the British society. I truly believe that there's a legal case there.
Stephen, I tell you something, I've heard worse ideas in my life, because I think what you're getting from Starmer, Steve, is misconduct in a public office. And it's the very highest office, which is Prime Minister. I believe he's a traitor to the country. Many will argue that what he's inherited is an economic mess. and a hollowed-out military from the Conservatives, that he's got a massive majority, a mandate to change Britain for the best. He would argue that he's stabilising the economy and is robustly supporting America in its actions in the Middle East. It's not my view, but that's what we're hearing from Number 10. It's all about opinions. More of yours next.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:20, Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan with you until 10 a.m. The brilliant Duncan Barks is up at 10. Well worth a listen. What about this in the Sun newspaper? Flying English, Scottish and Union flags on the streets has been linked to tools of hate in a leaked draft of the government's new social cohesion strategy. It warns that national symbols, such as flags of this country, were sometimes used last summer to exclude or intimidate, and says the extreme right has tried to turn symbols of pride into tools of hate. It's an exclusive in The Sun, and I'm delighted to say that their Whitehall correspondent is Sophia Slay. Hello, Sophia.
Good morning.
Great to have you in the studio. Your readers at The Sun and my viewers and listeners will be spitting feathers about this, won't they?
Yes, we love the flag. It's nothing to be ashamed about. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. So this story is bonkers on a few levels. Social cohesion report. Your viewers, my readers, are probably thinking, what the hell? What is this all about? The government is bringing out a social cohesion strategy next week. Why? What does that mean? What do these silly words mean? They're worried that Britain is a bit divided and people are living in different societies and not mixing. They're worried about riots. They are worried about extremism. So they've got this strategy that's going to come out next week. And there's been a little bit of a leak. A think tank got hold of it. The government has said, oh, this is an early draft, but they've got hold of a version of this. Whereas you say they're likening, the Scottish flag, the Union flag, the English flag to tools of hate Number one, tools of hate. I mean, government speak. I hate these kind of words.
It's a bit Orwellian, isn't it?
It is, and I think your viewers, my readers, will just find this so patronising. It's like you've stuck a load of civil servants and academics in a room and gone, "Oh, can you fix this problem for us?" And then they come up with these kind of bonkers bywords. Look, there's obviously problems in Britain, and I think there will be good things that can come out of this strategy next week, and hopefully there will be. Let's face it, there is a problem with extremism in Britain.
And there are racists, and there is the far right, and then there is the far left, and all of the above. No one denies that.
Agreed.
But you provably cannot weaponise a flag, because a flag is a flag.
Well, also, you know, this is going to annoy people, because what have we seen over the last few years on our streets? People marching with flags for Palestine, for Iran recently. You know, is that okay then? But waving, you know, a St George flag is not okay? Where, you know, what's right and what's wrong? I think we're going to annoy... I worry that this might annoy people a little bit more and drive them in a certain direction more, just by, you know, or you're racist because you have a St George's flag. Well, I think that might annoy people a little bit and drive them a little bit that way.
Well, exactly right. And the issue is it's definitely counterproductive. I just wonder what the establishment want out of this. You know, what is the ideological goal? And I think if you demonise the flag and describe it or frame it as a potential tool of hate, then perhaps we have fewer flags around. Well, then what you lose is a sense of national pride, national cohesion. Ironically, the thing that they're fighting for. If there's one thing that brings us together, it is the flag.
Exactly. You know, we should all be one under the flag. You know, we should all rub along well. It's just, I fear this could be divisive next week, and I think it would be very, very controversial.
Well, yeah, and actually, can I ask you just for your sort of headline thoughts on this other story that's floating around at the moment, and this is in regard to anti-Muslim hatred, which we can both condemn. It's horrific and disgraceful, of course, but there is more of a problem. No one challenges the idea of anti-Muslim hatred being an appalling thing that we should focus on. Islamophobia is quite different. So Keir Starmer is poised to appoint an anti-Muslim hostility czar alongside the government's new definition of Islamophobia. The plans are due to be outlined on Monday as part of Labour's new cohesion strategy, of which we've just spoken. Some are concerned this is a blasphemy law by the back door. We could never have called out the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs if we'd had an Islamophobia law. And therefore, this is a major worry for free speech.
As a journalist, I agree on the concerns about free speech, and actually also as an atheist, I believe that I should be able to criticise religion, any religion and all religion, and not be, you know, sort of lambasted for it, you know, and treated like it's a hate crime.
For example, in the 80s and 90s, if you'd called out the Catholic priests who were paedophiles on a terrifying scale, would that have been Christian phobic to call that out?
Well, exactly.
Because it was a particular problem within that religious group. And I say that as an Irish Roman Catholic myself.
Yeah, and we should be able to call these things out.
Or the IRA if you're an Irish person.
Exactly. And I think, you know, this is all going to be quite controversial stuff. And I think racism is an absolute scourge on society. It should not be allowed. But I do worry when we sort of break it down into these tiny little, well, this type and this type and this type. But, you know, why are we legislating for one community, not another? Look, there's already laws in place. There's already hate crime laws. I think it's going to cause a massive stink. And I think it is going to be fundamentally a problem for free speech.
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to have to wait and see. I think they've agonised over it, but we will have to see what they come out with next week on this. But it does, I mean, you used the word sort of Orwellian before. You know, we've got a czar for this, a czar for that. I actually, you know, I do question, you know, it reminds me a bit of like a minister for women. Why do we, you know, if we need a minister for women, we need a minister for men. You know, if we need a czar for this, we need a czar for that. I think where does it stop as well? You know, where does it end? So I think it will pose a lot of questions. How much are they going to get paid?
Well, you see that with identity politics, and you talk about, you know, the left definitely talk about the plight of people of colour in relation to the economy or this, that and the other, but then there are some people of colour who are very productive and very wealthy. Here's an old-fashioned idea. Why not tackle poverty irrespective of your race, creed or religion?
I think, look, if we worked on integration and actually the cost of living and things like that, we wouldn't be worried about social cohesion because people would be getting along a lot better if the pound in the pocket felt better, if people were encouraged to, speak English and things like this and mix in schools. I think all these little things actually matter and would make everyone get along a bit better.
Most definitely. What other big stories are on your radar at the moment?
Well, there's only one massive story in town, and that's the war, I'm afraid. And the British government's response. We've got quite a bit of coverage in that in today's paper. There's a bit of concern, I suppose you could say, about the Prime Minister's response to war in the Middle East. We've got, my colleague's written this story. The top line, Britain's response to the Iran conflict descended into a farce as the PM used Dire Straits song Money for Nothing as a defence video soundtrack. So we're getting TikTok videos, we're getting, all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, HMS Dragon, our warship, is still sat in port at Portsmouth. I don't think we can say Britannia rules the waves anymore when Britannia can't even get out of port to go and protect Cyprus. So there's... What's quite interesting, actually, in British politics at the moment is you're seeing a lot of criticism being levelled at the Labour government for their inaction, and actually sort of a clear dividing line coming out with the Conservatives. Kemi Badenoch sort of saying, actually, I think we should go in and target those missile launch sites that are targeting our bases. Yeah. She's being quite proactive, and I think we're seeing quite a dividing line now in British politics, certainly when it comes to defence. And
Badenoch has been quite smart with Trump, because I don't think that his political style is her cup of tea, but she hasn't betrayed any concerns about Trump publicly and is pretty much foursquare behind the project. And I think that's astute. And of course, we've got the effective or acting leader of the opposition, Nigel Farage, in Mar-a-Lago as we speak in Florida at Trump's estate, hoping to, I suppose, heal the special relationship?
Well, I can't imagine he's going to heal Keir Starmer's special relationship with the Trump administration. I can't imagine that would be his interest. I think the interesting thing with the Trump administration, what we've seen here is, sort of Keir won a lot of praise for how he dealt with Trump at the beginning. The sort of, the letter with the state visit and all that kind of stuff. Everyone felt like he pulled a bit of a blinder in his relationship with Donald Trump, who's not always the easiest person to develop a relationship with. And all that kind of schmoozing, well, has it worked? I don't think so, because America's furious. We have not rowed in to support our bases quick enough in Cyprus. We've actually sat back and, effectively let America go and defend our bases in Cyprus and Bahrain, and sat back and done, well, we're now acting, but quite slowly and reluctantly. And Cyprus is now going, well, we're not happy about this. We're actually furious. We're not sure we want you to keep your bases here anymore if you're not going to come in and protect us.
No, we know that Sir Keir Starmer has challenges on the domestic front with the economy. We had that spring statement with the Chancellor trumpeting very, very low projections for the economy, 1% growth for the foreseeable future. Unemployment's going to go up. It could be that inflation goes up now, partly because of this war. But his problems for the first time in his premiership are overseas as well now, aren't they? Not just the special relationship, but just a perception of a Prime Minister that somehow can't even control his own cabinet. Tim Shipman, writing in The Spectator, reveals that actually Sir Keir Starmer wanted to allow America to use those bases from the word go, and it was pushed back from Miliband, Cooper and Mahmood that stopped him.
And that's another interesting element, and you and I have spoken about this before, is that, Keir Starmer, is he just a Prime Minister in name only? Who is in control here? And I think there is an element where, we saw him being very much challenged earlier this year at the leadership. Andy Burnham making a run, talk of toppling the Prime Minister and all this kind of stuff. And I think you've got to look at it in that context now, really. That the Prime Minister is beholden to his backbenchers, and those backbenchers are being represented by other cabinet ministers in the cabinet now.
In office but not in power. Sophia, great to see you again. Please join us very soon. Sophia Slade, one of the best connected journalists in Westminster. She's the Whitehall correspondent at The Sun. Fascinating conversation. Lots more to come. 9:31, Talk Breakfast.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 9:33. Bad news for the Duchess of Sussex, dumped by Netflix in relation to her As Ever lifestyle brand. Let's get reaction from Prince Harry's biographer, one of the most experienced royal broadcasters. Is she not ready yet? Okay, let's do a couple of messages first. Live radio, live telly, folks. We don't dress it up, do we? We'll take a call if we need to and a voice note as well. A big reaction to our conversation across the board this morning. So much to get through. This from Mark. Good morning, Mark. As an Englishman, I'm so embarrassed about us not supporting America when push came to shove to eliminate such a horrendous regime causing worldwide terror. I would not blame Trump and would completely understand if he took all American personnel and military munitions, aircraft, navy out of the UK and leave us to our own defence. It's just a total, complete lack of duty to protect us and our allies. He should be prosecuted for treason. Sean says Starmer is an Islamist appeaser and a clear threat to the security of the UK. Stephen in London has messaged and said, good morning, Mark. Your two guests earlier were arguing about HMS Dragon not being ready and why. Are they forgetting the other 11 ships and 2 aircraft carriers that are also not ready? It is a national scandal. Well, I tell you something, it is a national scandal. And what you've got now with Starmer is not just issues around the domestic agenda, net zero, the highest energy costs in the whole of the developed world, not just anemic growth, the return of unemployment, sticky inflation. You've also got the end of the special relationship. It's a complete catastrophe and a massive headache. Let's take a voice note from Ven.
Morning, Mark. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham. Fantastic dispatch, mate. Every word true, 100% true. Of course, there's a danger, there's a clear and present danger to every citizen in this country that's British. I don't know why he does it, mate. We really must hammer this home. They are the minority in our country. And we can fly flags anywhere we like because it's our country. Stop pandering to these Muslims. Get a grip. Tell them no. Put them back in the box. Enough's enough. Keep up the good work, Mark.
Thank you for that, Wayne, a.k.a. Ven. Brilliant voice note. It is 9:36. You're listening to Talk Breakfast. A crisis for the Duchess of Sussex, dumped by Netflix in relation to her As Ever lifestyle brand. Let's get reaction from Prince Harry's biographer, one of the best connected royal journalists in the world, Angela Levin. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning.
Angela, what's the story? What was this deal with Netflix and why has it gone away?
Well, they thought she was getting out of touch with what was wanted and they weren't selling very much. And so they didn't want to carry on.
And this, by the way, of course, for those that don't know, this is the jam and this is the honey, the flour sprinkles, the rosé wine, all of which appears to be gathering dust in a US warehouse.
Yes, masses of them, absolutely. Thousands of them. But Meghan, and we both need to be very careful that we're not sued, thinks that she's said no. She's gone away. She's doing it her own. And she thinks they're too slow, Netflix, and that she wants to have all the responsibility herself. So you can juggle a bit and see which one you think is right. But that's what she's going to do. Now, what the people did was I looked up what they actually worked, and they do the backroom staff, and a development team does that, and they look after everything that goes on in the back. Now, how can she do that by herself? I mean, it's absolutely nonsense, but she's so strong in that. And she's going to do this all herself because she doesn't want just to have her wonderful things in America. She wants them in Britain. She wants them in New Zealand. She wants them in anywhere you can have, because she always thinks in the world, everything's got to be it's sort of everywhere for her, because she is so marvellous. Everyone's got to know all about it. And so she's going to do that. So I thought to myself when I read that, okay, but what about Diana? I'm very pleased if you leave it and drop it, but you're supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be running that. You're supposed to be getting that organised yourself, the producer. So how are you going to do that? You're a mother. She says, nothing's worse than, better than being with my children. How are you going to do that? I mean, it's all words that don't make anything.
Well, it doesn't
together.
make sense. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny, does it, Angela? And this was a commercial partnership with Netflix, who, of course, have been the platform for her awful TV show With Love, Megan, which has absolutely sunk in the ratings and will not be coming back for a third season. But this was a commercial partnership whereby Netflix would help her to sell the jam and the flour sprinkles. And it's quite clear that Netflix have looked at the bottom line and realised that this woman has the reverse Midas touch. Everything she touches, Angela, turns to mud.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, I got a list here, that you can't actually do anything all the way through.
Oh, go on, take me through the list. I could quite enjoy that.
The list, right. Well, the polo didn't work, although that Harry was doing
the
that.
The documentary, apparently it was very boring. No one watched it. I didn't watch it because I was washing my hair that night, which is an unusual move.
Well, there were massive, H&M was the only one. Harry and Meghan was the only one that was really good because they attacked the royal family. Okay, so with Love, Meghan, that's not going anymore.
Total flop.
Girl Scouts, that fell apart.
Oh, that's the latest thing. Now, that's her movie, the documentary that she's made, and it cannot it can't get a distributor. No one will stream it. No one will put it on at the cinema.
That's right. Then there's 2 books. Meet Me at the Lake. That it came out for them in August 2023 by Tasha Layton. And Netflix paid around £3 million to get it going, but it has never got going. They say it's still in development. Well, you don't have something, 2 years still in development. No.
No director attached, no cast after 3 years.
That's right. And then there was another one about a relationship, about love and all that, but that hasn't gone anywhere. That came out in 2018 and didn't come anywhere. So it doesn't work for her. Now, if you were an ordinary, sensible person, you would sit down and you say, what am I doing wrong? Help me. How should I change things? But she doesn't, because she thinks she's perfect. And so she says this is all very good for her, and she's going to do it very well. And that's it.
Well, I've reported, Angela, on my own royal channel, the Mark Dolan Show on YouTube, that it's not just this commercial partnership with Netflix, which is now over. It looks like the broadcast deal is over as well. You mentioned 2 feature-length projects that have been in development for 3 years. No director attached, no cast. They're dead in the water. No distributor for the Cookie documentary. It looks like that relationship with Netflix is over altogether. Is there going to be a financial problem for the couple? How much money do they have left? Do we know?
No, we don't know. But I will tell you, there's one person who still thinks that she's absolutely fabulous and unestimated, and that is Ted Sarandos.
Oh, yes, who's the head of Netflix.
Yes, he's the head of Netflix. Well, thought to myself, well, what's he doing? Nothing. They are very good friends, apparently, but I mean, he's not actually getting her up to doing anything, because she won't listen. She doesn't listen to anybody what she should do. She's just not someone, because she thinks she knows better than everyone.
Well, and also, I mean, Angela, I want to look at the money, because they got about $20 million from the book Spare. The original Netflix deal, $100 million, but that will have included the production budget for their shows. So by the time you've had tax and the management fees and all the rest of it, I guess the net worth of the Sussexes maybe $40–50 million. Well, they're getting through money at a rate of knots, and the income is drying up. So is there trouble ahead financially, do you think?
Well, what I think is that they want to go to London and see the Charles and, try and stay there or, anywhere.
Wow. You think the Sussexes want to come back to the UK?
Well, they want to come back, but Meghan wants to sort of tear it apart. But if she goes there, if she is there, she will become royal again, and she will get money. She will ask for lots of clothes. She will do everything. But I think if anybody gets her there and keeps her there, it will be a nightmare. There's all this talk that they could stay in a royal lodge where Andrew lived for 20 years.
Give it a deep clean first. Yeah, I'd get Rent-A-Kill in. I would bleach the whole place before going in there. Angela, what do you know Harry intimately well? You were his biographer.
Yeah.
You've spent time with him at close hand for many weeks in research for your
15
best-selling
months
book.
altogether.
Well, there you go. How about that? You know the guy better than he knows himself. What do you make of his mental state at the moment? To me, he looks like a very depressed man.
He's obviously extremely unhappy and he can't put on a good face. When we went out and he was a bit irritable one day, like normal irritation, and he would manage to smile and be happy and actually work with the soldiers who'd been wounded, anything like that. He could, be very alert. But now he can't. And actually, you see him moving his hand away from her because he doesn't want her to keep on hanging on to his arm. It's just too much.
He's depressed. Harry's depressed. Harry is in a dark place. I worry for his mental well-being. I know he's brought it on himself, Angela. I agree with you on that. But I think that there are concerns, safeguarding concerns around Harry. What do you think?
Well, yes, I know there are. It's very difficult. But if he doesn't listen to you, then it's very difficult. I think that the royal family are being very careful just because of that, because he is so depressed. But he doesn't listen to anything. He still believes that Meghan is absolutely wonderful. And if he sort of comes to work in the royal way, it will be very difficult because she will control it and he can't do that. And so it's very complicated for the king, who does obviously adore his son. It's very difficult, but he is obviously in a very bad place and he hates it now, I am told, that where they're sitting somewhere and she's got the best seat and he hasn't. She's got the speech, he hasn't. He's now getting very fed up about all of that.
It is Stockholm Syndrome. When is Harry going to wake up, Angela? Do you think it's a question of when, not if, the couple divorce?
Well, I'm sure they will at some point, but it's very difficult. What do you do with the children? That's always a very difficult one. And also she will be very difficult to handle with and could do a book all about him or do sorts of things.
Wow.
You can't trust her. I'm not saying she will, but you can't trust her at all.
Oh,
She's
Angela,
got him,
Angela, I
she's
hate
got
to
him
correct
under
you.
her skin.
Angela, I hate to correct you. There will be a book. When they divorce, there'll be a book and it will be Meghan, My Story. And Angela, she'll make millions.
Yes. So she's just waiting for that. Or maybe people will say she tells lies, which she does, and we won't read it. But we read Harry's The Spare. So actually she might very well do that. But I mean, what can you do really? He can then say it's not true and try and sue her. But, he's controlled by her. And I think it's very, very difficult. If you're completely controlled by someone for some years, it's 6 years, you can't look after yourself terribly well because you need that other part of you. And it's so negative that you don't know how to deal with it.
They call it Stockholm Syndrome, don't they? Angela, it's always such a privilege to have you on the show, and I look forward to our next on-air encounter, one of the most experienced and best connected royal journalists in the world, Angela Levin, Harry's biographer. That marriage, folks, is a hot mess. You're listening to Talk Breakfast. More to come, 9:47.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
This is a Talk exclusive. We've been looking at...
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:50 Talk Breakfast. Great to be back with you again tomorrow, 6 till 10. And I'm covering Talk Breakfast in for Jezza on Tuesday and Wednesday. Do join me then. And then as of next week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to normal. Live in the studio at 9:50 is Virgin Radio star Steve Denyer. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Happy Saturday to you.
It's great to see you. Tell me about the return of one of the biggest franchises in TV.
Can I introduce you to TFI Unplugged? TFI is back. Like you've never seen it before. Chris Evans in the Virgin Radio studio. We've got a lovely brand new updated TFI set and some really cracking guests. I mean, this week's show, episode 5, is up on YouTube and it kicks off with Billy Idol. Billy Idol. There's a great comedy sketch as well going into Billy Idol. Billy Idol's got this new show where it's a new kind of documentary called Billy Idol Should Be Dead. And he tells Chris Evans all about, you know, and he really should be when you hear the stories. Yeah. We had Dave Franco in, Martin Clunes came in with James Buckley this week. We also had the amazing band yesterday, Squeeze. We've never had so many band members.
One of my all-time favourites.
Literally squeezed into the studio. It was so much fun. So watch it when you get some
The lyrics of Squeeze, as a band, their lyrics were just the best.
Unbelievable.
Up the junction, you know, very witty storytelling within a great melody.
Exactly. And the new album is the stuff that they made before they became famous, that they're revisiting now. So you get a real picture of how talented they were even before they hit the big time. So it's incredible stuff.
Oh, well, listen,
TFI Unplugged.
So all you got to do, go to YouTube, search TFI Unplugged, and up it comes.
And it's there, and it's a treat. So listen, I thought I'd take you back to the year 1991 this morning.
Thank you for doing that.
Because
I'm struggling with 26, I can't lie.
Well, with all the developments this week with the war, we woke up.
Well, by the way, what is the Virgin Radio position on the Iran war?
We play lots of Bruce Springsteen. Let me take you to...
You avoided that curveball beautifully.
Thank you. I didn't flinch. Let me take you back to the 17th of January, 1991. The world woke up to this news report.
Allied warplanes flew more than 1,000 missions. Casualties are reported to be remarkably light. The Americans fire more than 100 cruise missiles at Iraq from their ships in the Gulf. The main sign of Iraqi retaliation, they shell an oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. Saddam Hussein appears unshaken. He repeats his call for a holy war against the forces of Satan.
Well, how appropriate that you chose that year, because, of course, now we have a military action on the part of the US, Israel and allies in Iran. So history repeating itself slightly.
Indeed. I mean, this war lasted a month. 35 countries got involved. I think the ground war was 100 hours. It was the first television war, and people often talk about CNN's coverage because they had night vision technical kind of cameras where you could see the missiles being fired and stuff. It was the first war, I suppose, where the 24-hour news media embraced it.
People used to get home from work and watch the Iraq War.
We did.
It was instead of Coronation Street in EastEnders, we'll watch the war. We'll have Stormin Norman Schwarzkopf. Do you remember? He was America's military head.
Exactly.
Who was in charge of it, and he's like, we've just taken out, and there was that footage of how accurate the missiles were, that they could take out an individual building.
We hadn't seen that before. Remember, before it'd just been bespoke reporters doing their 2-minute pieces. So it changed everything. It absolutely changed everything. And I was 14 years old. I was at school. I remember going into school and everyone was talking about the war and would the world end. And it's kind of quite creepy now. All these years later, we're in a similar position. But of course, who knows what's going to happen?
Well, that's right, and you're so right about 24-hour rolling news. And actually, there's been some criticism of this current US administration for calling the war effort Epic Fury, Operation Epic Fury. Well, people forget that the original Iraq War was called Desert Storm.
Operation Desert Storm.
So it had its own marketing campaign even then.
Even then, all those years later. Can I take you to the States? One of the biggest news stories in the States, which again has massive similarities to recent events, was the beating of Rodney King. Do you remember this?
It's devastating.
Somebody had filmed this. I've got a little bit of footage that we can watch and hear right now, but this led to the LA riots. Take a look at this.
It's perhaps the most notorious police brutality case in recent memory, made so by an amateur photographer who captured 56 police baton blows on videotape that was the cornerstone of the prosecution's case and introduced into evidence.
Those blows from Officer Powell and Officer Wynn's batons continue and continue and continue for no just reason.
Singer says Powell hit King in the face and head 5 more times for no apparent reason.
Brutally beaten by cops who were then acquitted, which sparked the LA riots.
Yeah, 3 officers acquitted. There was a non-verdict on the other one. The LA riots then started in 1992, and over 6 days, 60 people were killed. And I still remember watching the guy, you know, that was pulled out of the truck, and these devastating scenes, you know, in Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles was on fire. Some documentaries about that, but it all led back to this beating that was captured on cameras. I remember everyone being very, very scared. Again, another story when I was at school, but I remember at the age of 14 thinking, you know, having not seen anything like that, of course, the LA riots were featured on rolling news channels, and for a while it looked like the city was going to fall.
Most definitely. The poor man suffered 11 skull fractures, a broken ankle and permanent brain damage. It's a dark moment in US history.
Really well. Should we lighten things up?
Go on then.
Terminator 2.
Oh, that's perfect.
The biggest film of the entire year. I've got some great facts, indeed, some great facts about this. Should we take a look at Arnie? Arnie in action.
Once he was programmed to destroy the future.
You don't know what it's like to try to kill one of these things.
Now his mission,
get down,
is to protect it.
Come with me if you want to live.
You're really real.
His loyalty is to a child.
Who sent you?
You did. 35 years from now.
Producer Dean has just said, I'll be back. I didn't realise that Schwarzenegger came from Jamaica. One of the greatest movies of all time, a massive box office hit, incredible special effects.
Yeah, and the money, I mean, I've got some facts for you. It earned about 15 million. He speaks about 700 words in the movie, which means that he gets $20,000 per word, because there's not many words in that film. But what a film, and so iconic for him. Incredible. And we all watched it back in 1991. It was also the biggest #1 single in this year. I'm going to give you a a song and an artist, Bryan Adams. Everything I do it for you. It was number 1
What about
for
the song?
16
What about the song?
weeks.
Enough about us.
Enough of our weekend relationship here. 16 weeks at number 1. Originally meant for Rod Stewart. You couldn't get this song off the number 1 spot. It was the number 1 song of the summer. Everyone remembers. You know, when we started our summer holidays, it was number 1. Went back to school in September, still at number 1. And Right Said Fred hated it.
Well, I'm sure they did, because they would love to have those record sales. And did Rod refuse to do it? Like, did Rod turn it down?
They thought Rod Stewart was a bigger name. And Bryan Adams said, well, I wrote it, and I've also seen the movie, so I think I'm a better person to sing the song. So they were like, okay. And of course, it's gone down in history now, hasn't it, as one of the biggest ever number. That Wet Love Is All Around, huge songs.
Mull of Kintyre was another evergreen, wasn't it? That was in the charts forever.
Was, yeah.
Pipes of Peace. I will say a great Dolly Parton story, because she wrote I Will Always Love You many years ago, and it was offered that Elvis Presley would sing it. And she was an unknown artist at this time.
Really?
And he's like, she likes the track. Dolly likes